Well, hello everybody out there in Bubble Man's world. Welcome to episode 113 of Hash Church. Holy shit, that's pretty awesome. I'm feeling pretty good today. I'm just going to do my regular ritual here of sending out the goods, make sure that I'm not getting any reverberation through any spots. All right, so let's do the Facebook invitation. Send that out to the majority of people. Boom. Send out the... I hear something that I don't want to hear. I got to find out where it is because I can see. Where are you? Are you there? There you are. Excellent. All right, let's get Etienne here. Let's get this crew happening in here. Make sure we send out the Skypes. Make sure we send out the emails. Make sure we send out the Facebook messages. And yeah, there we go. Hopefully that'll all be good. Well, I hope everyone's doing good. Bad link. Oh gosh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, the link worked for Sam. Maybe not. All right, well, we'll just get this happening. Bear with me, people. Bear with me. We got a bad link in the house. Here we go. Let's try that link.
Good morning, guys.
There we go.
Welcome, Etienne. Welcome, Johnny B.
Just headed on a plane, actually.
And welcome,
Check off
Chemotype.
my weekend.
Where are you going, John?
I'm headed to Maple Bay, and they're not telling me I got to get off my cell phone. So I'm going to fly out of here, guys, and let Johnny on the other side.
Happy birthday tomorrow, Johnny B.
Thanks, guys. Going to be a wicked birthday. There's my plane, and I'll see you guys soon.
Safe travels.
Well, I'm glad that link worked for you, Etienne. Yes, it is Johnny B's birthday tomorrow. He turns 45, so if any of you guys want to hit him up in his social media and give him some love, I'm sure he would appreciate such a thing. His girlfriend is flying him on a float plane to Vancouver Island somewhere, and he has no idea where he's going. So he's getting a beautiful kind of spa day with his girl today, and he's quite excited about it, as he should be. So
Hell yeah. He made it to 45. His neck's better. He's looking much, much, much better, man. I'm so happy to see him every week. He just seems lighter and lighter on his feet and his spirit. You know, it's so great to see.
That's true. I mean, it's been said before, but that's because it's totally true. Welcome back there, Skunk Man Sam. Not sure if your mic is working or your camera is working, but I guess the link's working, huh, Etienne?
Yeah, initially when I tried it, it didn't go. It gave me an error. It gave me a Google 404 error, and I tried it again. It went through. But
the same one?
Yeah, the same one. It did.
Oh,
but
it gave me 3 errors, Etienne.
Okay, so it wasn't just me.
Well, I sent a new one in too. What happens is sometimes I copy and paste the address out of the top bar. That's what I did today. I don't usually do that, but often I push the share button, and then it puts a smaller link up, and it seems to be that one is always can be alive and working. So,
oh, there's Sam with his smile on.
Sam's rocking his smile. I believe I sent the email as well this morning to Mowglie.
Good.
Pretty sure, I'm just going to triple check here, that I also made sure to send Chimera the link, which I did.
You could also send Rob Clark the link. I have no idea if he's available.
Yeah, he sent me an email. I think he wants to come in. I'll send it to him anyway. He booked for next week to come in and do a little...
Rap about Turkey?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, that would be really nice. He's doing great work there.
And very apt, too, because it's Thanksgiving week. So having turkey on Thanksgiving week just seems apropos.
Right? That's it right there.
I would agree. In fact, when I was traveling the first time to India in 1971 in a VW van, we were in Turkey, on Turkey. So I had, unfortunately, steak.
Well, an odd thing, 20 years ago this week was the High Times Cannabis Cup, and we all were there together. Actually, Sam, you and I met over at Positronics. You were visiting with old Ed, and of course, I ran into you, Mr. Bubbleman, many times over at the Milk Veg when it was not just the milk fake. What was the PAX Party House?
Ah, yes, the PAX, the PAX.
PAX Party House was my favorite venue for a cup. It got too crowded towards the end, but I just liked the vibe of being in the same building right next to the police station and them being so friendly to us.
Well, and everybody was being respectful, even though it was mad puff fest inside. People kept it, indoors for the most part. I only heard of like a couple incidents where people were being Americans outside, but for the most part, everybody was respectful. And that was a giggle to every time go by there and walk and see, oh, we're right next to the police station. That's ballsy.
You remember the buses that they used to take around to?
Yeah. All the coffee shops.
And my daughter was one of the bus babes. She was Maya the bus babe.
I remember Maya the bus babe.
So basically, it was a bus from High Times that went around to certain coffee shops. So you got on this bus and it went to certain coffee shops. So you could go sample them, and it would also give you a ride back to the PAX Party House. So you had a place to start as well as to come back to. And
you had a guide on the way who was fluent in Dutch, English, French, and German.
Right, and it was basically a tour bus the whole time where they were giving you understandings of what's here, what's there. This is a great place to get some great, Thai food, et cetera, et cetera. Welcome, Mowglie.
Yes, welcome, Mowglie. I'm glad that the link worked out today. It's funny that just today of all days that people are having a hell of a time getting these links to work. So hopefully persistence will pay off, and much like Mowglie just did, they will continue to click that button and come on.
I think only the worthy will make it past the software.
Ah, yes, only the worthy. I like that.
Only the persistent.
Oh, what's that, Mowglie?
I said only the persistent.
Yes. The persistent.
That's a strange-looking bong, Mowglie. That almost looked like a coffee cup.
It's a multifunctional dab rig. It has coffee and everything else you might want.
They actually make those little dabbachinos.
Really?
Yeah, really. There's, I think Johnny B has one actually, a little coffee cup that is also a pipe. Yeah,
you suck through the actual handle, and there's a bowl attached on the side of the cup, and you can actually hit the bowl and then drink your coffee at the same time.
That is inherently worthwhile. Amazing.
Cannabis multitaskers. I mean, you gotta love the creativity of the cannabis person and all the things that we have had to come from. Now, what's interesting is you bring up Dabbuccino, Bubble Man, which brings up something I don't think we've discussed, which was recently there was a case brought forth by a designer as well as Hitman Glass regarding Starbucks cups, and they were awarded over $400,000. Now, I understand the suit currently against Hitman is ongoing or hasn't been settled at this time, but it was over $400,000 Starbucks actually sued the creator for direct
infringement.
Direct infringement off the cup of the Starbucks. So if you're out there and you're being cannabis related, be creative. Don't go taking corporate ideas, because as you can see, it can cost you literally everything.
Yeah, and that guy apparently didn't show up for court. The guy
that was the most amazing thing, is that he never showed up, and nor did he ever try to impede the course. He could have staved off some of the damages, but instead incurred $400,000 plus in damages.
And I just want to reiterate that we are not talking about Douglas right now. Everyone thinks it's Dougie that didn't show up for court. Dougie's involved in a different case. The one we're talking about, I guess, maybe is the guy who came up with the design, and Doug just facilitated having it made. I'm not exactly sure.
I think Doug had it on his site, and so by promoting it, he was promoting this product, or is the view of the court. And so the people who actually created Evol Glass, I do believe, EVOL Glass, is the actual creator of the idea. But it was rather surprising that Starbucks, one, lawyered up so fast, two, that the guy didn't lawyer up against it or try to protect himself or stave off some of the steepness of the damages.
One of the things that
how do you do it though? It was so blatant copy. How do you stave off damages when you're
one of the things about
Xeroxing something?
and ripping people off and like all of this sort of patent things is that people just don't believe it's possible. They're like, no, there's no way that they can own that. I'm just going to do it. And then they find themselves in a court case and they realize, oh shit, like you can actually trademark and patent and like create this ownership of intellectual property to the point where, yeah, like people will sue you, just like Etienne said, for everything you have. Like that's a rough, navigate carefully out there is what I will say.
I don't think I've ever told you before, but I actually inserted genetic letters into all of my varieties. For example, skunk number 1 says SK1 over and over in the junk DNA. So if you see any out there that's got it, let me know, Mowgli, because they owe me big bucks.
Yeah, no, we've developed a specific assay to identify the repeating SK1 sequence, and we just send all those people straight to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
people think you guys are serious.
Way to plan ahead.
Yeah, people are going to think you're serious. I mean,
you can see it in all of your faces as Sam was telling his joke and how each one was slowly getting it, and then all of them were smiling.
Anybody who believes that deserves to believe it.
I was gonna say, man, Skunk Man, your advancement in science was literally light years ahead of everybody else in its pre-concept.
He was genetically modifying cannabis before we could even genetically modify anything. That's how much he planned ahead.
GMO,
Sam, you're a great man.
I can tell you a funny story. I gave free skunk seeds to George Weblin, who did some DNA research, and their group, I'm not sure if it was with McKernan or not, discovered that skunk number 1 has CBD synthase genes, but they don't work. They're defective. So it's really difficult for skunk to produce any CBD because the CBD synthase gene is non-functional.
So it has a precursor, it just doesn't activate it.
Yeah. So when they told me that, I told them, oh, yeah, well, I put that in there on purpose. And at first, for a second, they believed me.
Well, I bet you it was subconscious even. Your absolute, like, not stoke for CBD just created that non-working synthase.
Yeah,
I like to think so, but I'm not sure I'm that great. But you're right.
Well, you could have easily selected for a dead synthase, you know, as you were developing stuff. That could have easily happened. You know, I actually think that because of all the synthase duplications, we're going to find that there's lots and lots of copies of both synthase genes in many plants. And it's actually hard to figure out which ones are working and which ones aren't just by looking at the genome. So it's going to be confusing unless we have a functional assay, you know, like smoking it and seeing what's in it.
can I ask, what does the fact that these varieties have been traded in public domain for decades mean to anybody that thinks they have any type of legal rights to breed, you know, 2 varieties that have been open domain for decades together and call it theirs?
Yeah, let me speak to that for a little bit, because this shit is so complicated that people are having a really hard time wrapping their heads around it. And it took us a long time to wrap our heads around it too. So let me just back up for a second. So when we first started the Open Cannabis Project, and we figured that we could use all this data as proof of prior art, as evidence that all the stuff around now has been around for a long time, we thought that would just be universally appreciated, right? We thought everyone would figure, well, that might do something to stop patenting, and so it's probably a good thing. And the biggest surprise we got was all the pushback that we received, especially in Northern California, where everyone was, they were terrified of patenting, right? But they were more terrified of making their stuff open because they wanted to patent their stuff. I mean, so there's this weird tension in the community, right? People are afraid of companies patenting stuff, but you know, breeders never really got paid very well, many of them, for all the amazing work they did. And they want to protect their stuff. And so lots of people, when you talk to them, they don't want to genotype their stuff and have it dumped into the public domain, the sequence. You know, they want to keep it private because they think they might be able to get a patent. And the thing that was hard to communicate to people was that if you've been selling your plant for years, you cannot get a patent on it. It belongs to everybody now. That's just how it works.
You know, I totally think that's obvious to me, at least. I mean, I think a lot of people that have been in the industry, you know, 10, even 20 years. I mean, if you're working with plants that you got in the last 2 decades, you're working off of the work of people like Sam and others that have been breeding long before you ever got into the business. And I just don't see how they're going to come along and lay claim, you know, to these varieties that have been floating around Europe and North America in some varying degree for decades, since the 80s in some degree.
Well, but there is a way to lay claim to it. There is a way for people to patent that old stuff. And the way you do it is that, or the fear that we had is that you take something old, you rename it, and you submit it to the USPTO, and the USPTO has no record of prior art. Because there's so little evidence out there about this plant, you can do the biopiracy thing. You can submit it, pretend it's something else, pretend you just made it. And so in theory, that could happen. I mean, you have to lie and cheat and steal to do that, but it's possible.
But won't you eventually get caught as well, because it's going to be gene mapped eventually?
Before we jump that point, though, you would have to lie and cheat and steal to the United States government, because right now they won't let you trademark anything that's going to be used on a cannabis product.
And good luck trying to find a patent attorney who doesn't want to lose their license to do that.
Well, my point is right now, how are you going to get the same government that will not allow you to trademark even, you know, Snoop Dream on a bud, on a variety of cannabis? How are any of these, you know, patent people going to stand up in court that doesn't respect them?
Well, the USPTO... Let me just clear up the thing between trademarks and patents, right? In U.S. patent law, there's a line that says something about vice, right? And it's been interpreted to mean that federal trademarks will not be available for cannabis products. And that has generally been true. There's a workaround that a few companies have done. But basically, because of that language, you can't get federal trademarks on cannabis-related products. However, that line does not exist in the patent law.
No, USPTO is recognizing cannabis patents, folks. So that argument really doesn't hold any water.
Yep. I mean, you can get patents, you can't get trademarks.
The USPTO and the trademark office are different entities. They're not the same department.
They are, but you're still going to have to go in front of a federal judge, which is in the same judicial branch that has been dissing us all for decades. So I would like to see one of these patents.
Yeah, but you can have a patent on something without having to be in possession of the plant or the marijuana in these states.
You have to be able to defend it. So my point is you can have the patent, but you got to go in and be able to defend it in front of one of these bigoted judges that don't really care anything about your industry or your rights. If I'm wrong, let me see it. So show me one case where a cannabis patent is stood up in court.
I think you are wrong, and you know, we were talking about it last week, and you were saying, well, you know, you can't just put the final bell and whistle on whatever and claim ownership, but
you can,
right? You can.
That's how it works.
You put can you guys refer me to any case that stood up? That any one case in cannabis with a cannabis patent where a federal court in the United States has stood up and said, yes, this party is the owner of this patent over this party. Is there one case that you can refer me to?
No, yeah, but that's just because it's very new, Todd. So let me tell you what the plant patent lawyer that I talked to told me about this. What he told me is that judges who hear patent cases, and first of all, plant patent cases are very rarely litigated, so there's not a lot of case law, unfortunately. But judges who hear patent cases in the US are very, very motivated to protect patent law and to protect the interests of businesses that have patents. And so his sense, in the sense every lawyer I've talked to about this, is that they're going to stand up for the patent law. They're not going to care that it's about cannabis. They're going to defend the patent if the patent is valid under normal plant patent law.
Right, based on the law, not based on anything to do with the fact that it's cannabis.
Right. Our whole court system is based on case law, though, in all reality, and without any case law, you're just basically putting forward opinion.
No,
So
that's not true, because that's
show
not
me
true at
one
all.
cannabis people. I'm not trying to be a dick.
But that's
show
not
me
the
one
point.
case where
That's
this
not
is
the
true.
point. You're talking about like new ground. They're not going to rewrite patent law for cannabis. It doesn't make any sense to do that. It's going to be interpreted.
Not to be weird, they have exempted us from every other right, bro. They've rewritten every single state rights law. They have come against us in every way they could.
Listen,
so show me one case where they're going to back up what you're saying.
Listen, Todd, I don't want to call you out on the public channel, but honestly, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to plant rights or plant
all I'm
variety
asking
protection.
for is one case law. And all I'm saying is show me one case where what you're saying has been set up.
It's a red herring. It's a red herring.
There isn't one.
It is a red herring of an argument, because we live.
It is, Todd.
Yes, we live in post-prohibition, a post-prohibition world where cannabis was kept out of this whole set of systems for the last 70 years. So we can't show you a case because they don't exist.
But that's my point, and I agree with what you just said.
Todd, the patents are brand new. There's no case law because nobody's taken these patents to court yet. They will. It will.
Okay, then let's continue my thought then. If these are patented, somebody goes and patents it, okay, and then
wait a second.
An attempt at patenting, okay, and how does there proof that there is these cannabis are in the public domain? So how does somebody not take some Sam skunk, go run with it, try to patent it? Okay, let's just say they attempt at patenting it. At what point does somebody present the genetic to say, hey, this is in the public domain? Is it in the prosecutor for the federal government's situation? Does somebody on the outside have to bring that suit in to challenge it, such as does Stamp and have to challenge skunk when it appears, or have to keep an eye on every genetic string that comes out?
Here's how it works, right? So when you submit a patent, the patent examiner is obligated to look for prior art. So they get the patent application, and then they have to dig around and see if there's any prior art.
Mowglie, can you just publicly say what prior art is then, so people understand?
So if you invent something, right, you invent like a new machine, the patent examiner gets it, and then they have to look around in the history of other patents, and then in the history of other commerce, and say, has a machine like this ever existed? And they have to look everywhere.
Does this exist on the market or not?
Right, and that's prior art. It doesn't have to be patented, but if something has been released into the market or patented, it's prior art, and if prior art exists, you can't get a patent on it. The problem is when you come to a field where there's no record of prior art.
Okay.
Well, no, that's not true. That's not true. Hold on. No, wait.
There's one other aspect. There's one other aspect, and that is that based on what is known in the prior art, is someone who's suitably skilled in the prior art able to put that invention together, then it could be deemed obvious and not an invention at all.
Right. Anyway, the point that I was going to say is that prior art is defined by the knowledge that's available in the public domain. So that includes everything from scientific journals to trade publications or papers, or anything that you can demonstrate. So right now in cannabis, we don't, one of the reasons that a lot of these varieties aren't recognized is because they're not described. And to describe a variety, it's usually done in terms of physical characteristics, but it can also be done in terms of chemical composition of the plant. And unfortunately, right now, that's not the way that people are looking at these plants. They're saying, oh, it tastes like pineapple, or it's high in THC and it really fucks you up. And that's not the way that we look at plants in the real, in the real plant variety development world.
It's a sativa. It's an indica. It's a ruderalis.
Right. Well, those are all terms that don't mean anything, right? So when you start looking at, for example, here, I can actually do a screen share. I'll pull up the Mediavia paper.
I love all the intensity of you guys, by the way. I love the intensity of the conversation. I know where Todd's coming from. I see where Mowglie and Chimera's coming from. I myself spent 8 years in a patent lawsuit. Have any of you done that? Because it was about the cannabis product. And guess what? it never got thrown out because it was about cannabis.
Right.
It kept on sailing right through.
That's also
And
Canada.
people would
That's
talk
also
to me
Canada.
like they knew themselves what was going on, and I was like, well, guess what? It's not your business on the like that you're worried about losing it. Everyone was a patent expert when I was going through my case. They were like, oh, they can't do that, and that, no, that's not going to happen, and oh no, don't worry about that. And I'm like, really? Like, are you going to pay if I end up owing some like hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars? It's just crazy, really.
No, I want to say this though. I always thought Canada's a little more intelligent than our federal court system. A lot less conservative in some ways. And the second thing I was going to say is that Ryan, is what you're saying that basically because of all this previous information, that there is enough information in open source that anyone will be able to challenge these future combinations.
Obvious, not an invention.
What I'm saying, it is plant. Yes, you can make plant inventions. It's a ridiculous statement that they're not inventions. They are inventions. But what I'm saying is the public domain, all the information that's in the public domain defines the norm. Okay? It defines what exists. And so if you can show something that you have something that doesn't exist in the public domain and that it hasn't existed before, then you can start making claims as to we invented this or we made something.
Well, look at a dumb question. Is using the word invention a little loose, considering we're only talking about does a mother and father invent a baby?
Yes.
Listen, I was sitting at the ICRS like 3 years ago, and people were talking about a specific cannabinoid profile, and I realized that I could create a variety with that cannabinoid profile, but also had a unique terpene profile that didn't exist, and you couldn't find that a variety somewhere else.
Then keep it as a trade secret. Don't waste your money filing a patent on it.
No, the point is that there was that aha moment, right? It was an invention. It was something that had never been considered before.
You can't keep it as a trade secret if you release it to the public. If you're allowing the public to use it, then all they got to do is freaking analyze it, and they can see exactly what Chimera saw 3 years ago.
Sure, like a can of Coca-Cola.
So, beyond
good luck with that.
Will the burden of proof be on you to prove it, or will the patent office then go out and find all these other genetics to actually compare?
No, well, they don't have to look at the genetics. They just have to look at the information that says it's around, and so that's kind of what's happened. That these patents have slipped in the absence of knowledge about what exists in the market.
That's bullshit.
Well, that's the way it is. I mean,
no. How about Roger Adams' patents back in the 40s, right? This was before Schedule I, before the Controlled Dangerous Substance Act. He patented new compounds derived from cannabis plant. The patent office doesn't give a shit where they come from. If you make a new composition of matter, you make a new composition of matter. It's an invention. Yeah, that's it. That's it. The question is it obvious? And a patent is only good as it'll hold up in an infringement case against it. So you're going to spend all this money, and believe me, the lawyers want you to spend the money filing all these patents. But at the end of the day, are they really going to hold up in an infringement case? Good luck on trying to enforce a plant variety patent in this industry.
Well, there's no such thing as a plant variety patent. There's plant variety protection, and there's cultivar protection, but those are not patents. So, we got to not confuse the different.
Oh, I thought you were talking about patenting a plant itself, or patenting the variety. Isn't that what you're talking about?
Well, there's different, as Mowglie said last week, 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was, there's different forms of IP protection for plants. If you have a plant that you've bred and it breeds true from seed, and you can plant it from seed and let it grow up and mate within itself, and then plant those seeds again the next year, and it's the same, then that's called a variety. And you can get what's called plant variety protection for that. And then you can get, that allows you to do a whole bunch of different things with contracts, and you can license the use of these varieties. You can stop other people from growing them without,
But can I ask you this? They would have to specifically grow your clone in order to violate your patent.
No.
If somebody comes along and takes together, just train wreck and sour diesel, mixes it together, they're not going to be able to say that they have an ownership on sour diesel cuttings. And if your dispensary is growing and selling sour diesel, that because they mixed it together, they have some control over this previous mixed together plant.
You're not okay.
Talking about different things.
Yeah, you are talking about different things.
Todd's talking about people that like put two plants in a closet and make seeds, i.e. our seed industry. And Chimera's talking about like professional seed breeding, where you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and breed specific traits into plants. And that's a very different thing than just trying to like.
That's what I mean, though, because in that situation, they wouldn't get their hands on the Jack Daniels recipe no matter what.
Okay,
There's a lot of people.
Wait a second. Let's educate ourselves before we just start talking a bunch of shit that we don't know anything about.
No, I'm asking you a question, Ryan. Stop being so rude. You really are. I'm trying to get the information out of you without you yelling at me or stepping over me because I don't understand it.
Todd, you're ignorant in the classic sense of the word in that you don't know. Okay, so let me educate you and stop beaking for a moment, and let me educate you for a little bit. Yeah,
really, Ryan. God, what the fuck? Did you not smoke weed this morning? Really?
Take a deep breath, guys. We want to get this conversation out. We want everyone to be heard. We don't want to get into personal.
Listen, you guys.
There we go.
Can I just back up and try to clarify for a second?
Please do.
There was a lot of confusion. Like, let's forget about the subtleties about plant variety protection versus plant patents for a second. There are three different kinds of protection you can get on plants. Let's just forget about that for a second. A lot of our community doesn't believe that you can patent plants at all. So let me just clear that up. You've been able to get certain kinds of IP protection over plants in the US since the 1930s. They started doing it in the 30s to encourage innovation in the new seed breeding industry that had emerged. And patents can indeed encourage innovation in some cases. And then, now a lot of the community doesn't realize you can get plant patents on cannabis. You can. And there is a lot of evidence that the USPTO doesn't give a shit about the fact that it's cannabis. There's a lot of evidence. There's not a lot of case law, but there's a lot of evidence. And the general legal opinion is that those patents will hold up in court. Now,
well, we don't know whether they will, but they haven't been tested.
Yeah, we don't know, but you can
I would assume their claims are very, very broad. But I'll be the first one to admit I am not a plant patent expert. I probably know as much about plant registration as anybody else. In fact, probably more than anybody else. But patents are, I never had a real interest in patents.
Well, look, there's a distinction in patents that I just want you guys all to think about, right? So we've been reading a lot about the history of patents and trying to figure out, when we were talking to people in the industry about making their data open, and we got all this pushback from people who didn't want to make their data open. We started to feel trapped between this idea of big companies that are going to come in and patent too much stuff, and then little breeders who also want to protect their stuff and who maybe should have a right to. And we came to the conclusion that there's good IP protection and there's bad IP protection. That was finally where we wound up. There's limited patents that protect one single thing that an inventor made, that they put a lot of energy into, and they get a patent on it, and that has encouraged innovation over the years. And then there's certain kinds of patent protection that have been terrible for industries. Like right now, the software industry is spending more money litigating over patents than the whole industry is making because of the patents they have. There are patents that only favor big corporations. There are patents that kill innovation rather than protecting it. And so we came to the conclusion that we want to encourage, for us, our biggest goal is encouraging and preserving the diversity of this plant, right? So we want breeders to breed. We want all of the diversity that's around to be accessible and available. We don't want companies to come in and engage in traditional agriculture practices, which tend towards monoculture. We want all the stuff that's around to be available to people. We want new stuff to emerge. I mean, this is what has to happen, right? But there's forms of IP that discourage innovation and put things in the hands of wealthy corporations who can afford very expensive patents. So the distinction that matters to us right now is between very limited plant patents or breeders' rights that protect one individual plant variety that a breeder actually made, and very, very broad, expensive patents that cover entire categories of plants. Now, to our mind, that's the kind of IP protection that kills innovation. It favors big corporations who can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to file for patents. And it covers whole chemical ranges of variation, which means that no one can operate in those areas anymore. So the USPTO supports patents like that. They also support the narrow patents. Right now, what we want to do is put as much data in the public domain as we can to make it harder to get those very, very broad, innovation-killing patents.
Yeah,
so that's our goal right now.
But the information that you guys are putting forth doesn't do that.
So you are partially correct about that. Putting a lot of genomic data in the public domain is not going to be useful to a patent examiner who is searching for prior art. It will be useful for patent challenges, however.
Yeah, what you need is the terpene and cannabinoid profiles and possibly other things. That's what would really change it.
Right.
It would be
right now we need to get as much chemical data in the public domain as well. The genetic data will help, but it's true that because patents are being filed with chemical data, we need a lot of chemical data in the public domain.
So
we need it.
Can I show some chemical data just so that people can understand what is the public domain, what is the norm, what is, you know, rare, and then therefore like not the public domain and therefore maybe patentable. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see my screen or not because I'm screen sharing, but
Yes, we can see it.
this is a study called Essential Oil of Cannabis Sativa Strain by Vito Medavilla and Simon Steinman that was published in the International Hemp Association Journal. You can look it online, you'll find it pretty quickly. But what they did is they grew a bunch of different varieties, and here they are right here. You can see most of them are hemp varieties, but there are a couple of drug strains at the bottom. And these were grown in Switzerland in populations, in family populations, and then they were harvested, and they had the essential oils extracted. And the essential oils, the terpenes, were then subject to GC analysis, and they got fingerprints from them, okay? So if you look at these and if you pull up the study, or you know, somebody can do it later on, but you can see that in almost every case, myrcene is the dominant terpene. Okay, so that's a pretty standard chemical signature for cannabis. Most cannabis varieties that you look at have myrcene occurring as the most prominent terpene. Okay, there's more myrcene than there are any other terpenes in the variety. So that's kind of like your standard in genetics, what they call the wild type, and wild type essentially is the most, it's really the most common occurrence of a given trait.
Chimera, I'm sure you understand perfectly well that the plants they used in that study were limited selection, right?
No, these were families, so it's unfortunately it's weighted towards the population norm and not the rare individuals, right? That's why you're seeing myrcene is common, and we're not seeing any like osamine dominant or terpinolene dominant clones in there.
Sure, but there's so much variation out there that I think we're all aware that it's very likely that there's some plants out there that are not myrcene dominant.
No, absolutely. I'm not claiming that they're not myrcene dominant, but the patent specific that we're all referring to specifically references non-myrcene dominant varieties that are higher than, what is it, 2% or 3% CBD by weight, or CBD acid by weight, right? So it's a type 2 plant that has THC and CBD, but is non-myrcene dominant.
Right.
And if you actually do look at the public domain and all the information that's in the public domain, you look at Bediol and the Bedrocan varieties that are type 2 and all the other type 2 varieties that you can find before the filing of the patent, and they're all myrcene dominant.
Right, but We also all know that there's incredibly poor documentation of what has been out there.
Right. And so that's really the question is, does the USPTO let prohibition create a unique situation for cannabis where it's essentially, it's the forbidden zone that nobody can go and stake claims, and all of a sudden the gold rush begins and everybody just runs out and starts saying, hey, this is mine.
Well, the results from this study show myrcene dominance. That's clear from the data, but there's studies that predate this that don't show myrcene dominance at all.
No, but okay,
So,
you got to remember, you got to take in context that each A, B, C, D, whatever, they represent a variety, and those varieties were grown from seed. They weren't grown from clone. So there's, you have all that inter-variety variation, and that's what we do when we're growing seeds and selecting mother plants, or we're selecting clones to be mother plants, is we're looking within that variation within the seed family, and we're selecting individuals that are different. And part of what we do in that is we select individuals that have different terpene combinations. And in our pursuit to always look for something new and different, we start selecting. If myrcene is the norm, we start selecting away from the norm and trying to find other smells that are pleasant.
myrcene perhaps is the norm in this study, but there's work that predates this, very careful analytical work that shows that myrcene is not necessarily dominant in all strains of cannabis.
No, you're talking, but if you go back and you look more carefully, Mark, you'll notice that all those varieties are type 1. Those are THC dominant plants. Okay, so you won't go back in the literature or anywhere pretty much and find a type 2 plant that is non-myrcene dominant.
But screw the literature. There's no literature.
Well, there's some literature, and if you take the combined literature all together,
there's lots of literature, man. I don't know where you guys are. There's lots of literature on cannabis, man.
No, but Mark, we're again specifically talking about type 2 cannabis varieties that have a mix of CBD and THC and have a documented terpene profile. And if you actually scour the literature, no, but listen, just listen to what I'm saying. If you actually scour the literature and you try to find type 2 plants, you'll see that anything that has a published terpene profile is myrcene dominant.
I disagree. I actually have the literature to show you. I'll pull up the paper in just a second. Hold on.
What's the name of the study?
What's that, Sam?
Hold on, I have to pull up the
asked
paper.
what's the name of the study? I have it too.
Listen, you guys, there's two questions. If there is literature showing type 2 plants that have almost no myrcene, then that could form the basis of a legal challenge to the patent we're talking about. But it may be that there is no literature like that, and there's still plants like that out there. It might be that there's no plants like that out there. That's possible too. The real question on my mind is not whether or not we can find a type 2 plant without myrcene that predates, it has to predate 2012. That's an important question, but that's not the most important question. The most important question is if we're going to let big, broad patents like this block up every area of cannabis in the next few years. There are patents coming down the line that are going to cover all the variants. They're going to cover all the CBC plants. They're going to belong to people who can spend that much money on patents, and they're going to be a big problem for the industry. That doesn't mean they're not legal. They are legal.
Well, I mean, only time will really tell.
Chimera, you're muted.
What's that?
Chimera was talking.
I was just saying that the Varin patent, the propylcannabinoid patent, was published, and I believe it's been granted, but I'm not sure on that. But if you actually go and look at the variety again, start looking at the varieties listed in these patents. Sure, propyl plants that produce propylcannabinoids exist. But if you look at them, they don't really exist above 2% of the total dry weight.
That's right. So you could get a totally legal patent on any plant that have more than 2% of the propylcannabinoids. You absolutely could get a legal patent on that. There's no question about that. The problem is that it's fucked up because it's such a broad patent that it's going to kill innovation in this industry and put entire categories in the hands of single companies. That's not a good way for this industry to move forward.
No, one of the things I was really
but that's the system that
Brian, can you let somebody else say anything without being rude? Really, can I just say something?
Enlighten us, Todd.
No, it's actually not directed towards you. It's towards Mowglie, and it's what he said earlier, that what it's trying to do is create enough of this information so it doesn't stifle the ongoing industry. And I just want to say that's really a good thing to hear you say, because a lot of us are wondering what is going to happen, because there are a lot of cowboys in the hills all over the world that are trying to breed together other people's work and say it's theirs and then block other people from being able to use it. So what you're doing to me is very important, and I'm glad you're doing it.
Thanks. But look, I mean, it's just really complicated, and Chimera is right that what we're doing is a tiny piece of it. And even if we can dump as much data as we possibly can into the public domain, it's still going to be very difficult to block these patents. It's going to be difficult. I mean, what if, you know, all we can do is block patenting of stuff that already exists? There's still a huge problem with getting patents on stuff that doesn't already exist, but then someone locks up the entire category, and there was nothing we could do about it because there was no prior art. But it's still a shitty thing to have someone patent, there's some new category of cannabis, and then one big company owns the entire category. I mean, I'm okay if the cowboys in the hills make a new variety and they want to patent that one variety because they made it. That's fine with me now. I'm over that. But I don't want them to patent the entire category.
Yeah, but listen, when you make a patent deposit, when you file a patent, if you're filing a patent for example, a process or a machine, you have to file diagrams with that patent, right? So and the diagrams teach everybody else in the art how you're doing it and what you're doing. And in demonstrating that, showing that your mechanism or your process or whatever it is unique and that you've done it, then they will grant you the patent and say, yeah, you have the right to, you know, to reap the economics of that invention. So when you do this with plants, you have to make either seeds that demonstrate that chemotype exists, or you have to make a clonal variety that demonstrates that chemotype exists available, so that other people that are interested in challenging your patent can then come along and grow those plants and analyze them and see whether or not they actually do what the patent claims that they do. Okay, so if these patents are being granted, wouldn't you think that those seeds have then been would have been been deposited?
Yes, but you can still be sued for breeding in that category under the patent. I mean, the fact is,
that doesn't mean that the patent's going to hold up. But yeah, you're right. You're right on that. But that's unfortunately,
there's a question of what's legal and what's not, and then there's a question of what's good for the industry and what's not.
Yeah, but
that's a different question.
Sam said it 100 times. I've heard him say it. You know, we wanted cannabis to be legitimized and legalized and subject to all the same systems that every other plant was and every other business was.
I never wanted that. The systems that work for every industry in this country are totally fucked.
Yeah, but dude, then change the systems. This is not an argument about cannabis. That's an argument about changing the systems of your country. Let me put it this way. Canada doesn't recognize plant patents. That patent that was filed in the US and worldwide doesn't apply in Canada.
Look, when we started trying to figure out what the pesticide rules should be in Oregon for cannabis, Oregon's about to be the first state that's testing every batch of cannabis for pesticides, right? And so we're like, well, let's go and see what they do about pesticides in the normal world. How does the EPA regulate pesticides in the normal world? And then we'll take those scientific standards that have been developed for other industries and we'll apply them to cannabis, and we'll have some rational scientific-based system. But it turns out, guess what they do in the rest of the world? They let you dump pesticides on everything. And the tolerances that they set are based on 70-year-old mouse studies, and it's retarded. And so we're like, well, let's look at tobacco. They just let you smoke pesticides. When you go to take the framework from normal industries and apply it to this newly legal one, you're getting shitty old legal systems that, you know, weren't really very good. We actually have a chance to make things a little better in this new industry now across the board.
So you're saying the standards are then too high for what they're saying is the accepted normality?
For pesticides, you mean? Yeah, I mean, it's just an example. But like just across the boards, when you go and look at how things are done in other industries, well, they're done terribly. I mean, that doesn't.
You know, can I bring that back up then, Ryan? Something you just said, it's international courts don't really respect any of this. So how does this stuff fly when you start looking at the European model and the market and the Canadian market?
So the patents that have been granted on the type 2 plants without myrcene, that group has been very aggressive about applying for international patents as well. So you have to apply in other markets, but that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that someone was going to do it, right?
Look, I'm not saying that group, Chimera, is bad. I'm not saying that. Of course someone was going to do it. I'm saying that there are some things that we could do as a community to make this go in a different direction than having all of cannabis owned by a couple of wealthy companies.
Best thing we can do, Mowglie, is publish huge amounts of terpene and cannabinoid information to show it's already out there.
That is the best thing we can do, and we're trying to do that. But the truth is that without a community consensus that kind of broad IP is shitty, even dumping everything we can into the prior art won't solve all of our problems going forward. In fact, I mean, I think the only thing that we can do is develop some kind of internal industry standards where we treat companies that get patents like that as very, very bad actors. There are also ways to challenge them, patents like that at the USPTO based on the obviousness standard, which is really important. You were right about that.
Well, I think that's probably the weakest part of that one. You know, is making a type 2 plant out of an existing terpene profile obvious or not?
It's already been demonstrated 20 years ago.
But going off of Todd's thought, then couldn't somebody in the U.S. become that first person to patent it, thus subverting the European and Canadian systems because of possible legalities with these states? Somebody's got to be trying this as we speak.
Well, you know, there's these two perspectives.
Or attempting.
There's people. Can people hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I see the two perspectives, you know, and it's not like, I don't think any of us really are choosing well, I guess probably the side we would choose would be quite honestly the one I'm about to mention, which would be to patent something that allows it to be protected, and then, you know, sort of, it's a hard thing to do because there's a value there, and if the more value that's there, the more obvious valuable it is of a gift, like Elon Musk there giving out his electric car and Hyperloop patents, you know, because he's like, okay, I got billions of dollars, but I just can't do all the things I want to do. I'm just going to give this technology away to all these other people. In that sense, a patent I don't see as being a bad thing if it's made available and it's not, but like then the worry of what Mowglie's saying about an entire category and one company, that's like the polar opposite of that other option of it being patented to be protected so it can be used. And innovation comes from many, many, many people being able to have access and sort of be able to take a shot at it. You get all the different minds, and you never know which mind is going to take that to that next level. We all kind of lose as a species, I think, when cannabis gets locked up like that. And I
don't believe that it is locked up. Is my
but it could be.
You must hear what he's saying. I mean, there's no.
I do hear what he's saying, but I mean, it's also, again, it's kind of like, don't take this the wrong way, but it's kind of an idealistic point of view, right? The reality is we live in a world where there is a patent office and people do file patents and people do lock up industries and people do all the stuff that we're saying would really suck if it happened to cannabis. And yeah, you know what? I agree. It would really suck. But this is the world that we live in, man. I mean, what do you want me to say?
No, there's things we could do to fight against that. You know,
okay, so let's talk about that. How can we lay it out? Because, you know, McKernan was on here saying that their sequencing and ID is going to stop people from sequencing patent or, you know, filing patents on these patented clones. But the reality is you change a few base pairs or you change a couple of basic traits and it's no longer the same clone, right? And therefore that sequence barcode that you guys have doesn't block anybody from, you know, from working with these varieties. Like, what's the solution then? Lay out the solution.
Here's the solution. So first of all, that sequence data will be the foundation for many, many patent challenges in the future. It'll be a lot more powerful if we can get a lot of people to, a lot of the labs to contribute chemotype data to the Open Cannabis project as well. But it has value in terms of demonstrating prior art. And you don't have to demonstrate the chemotype of a plant. If you can prove that it's the same plant and later get the chemotype data, the USPTO is used to that kind of thing. So it has value. And one thing we want people to know is that they don't lose anything by making their DNA sequence data public. Like, it doesn't put their plants at risk at all, but it has some potential value in terms of blocking patents. But think about what Mark just said. Imagine if we have a world in the next couple of years where hundreds and thousands of breeders are playing with the propocannabinoids and making interesting variant plants, right? Or we have a world where one company has the patent that covers all of those plants, even though they only made a couple of them. They have a patent on the entire category.
Yeah, but you're making the assumption, listen.
Versions can be sued.
Yeah, you're making the assumption that they've only made a couple of them, and I happen to know that that's not the case. So,
but you know, so just think about it. One company owns an entire category. What we should be doing is we should be getting companies who are in a position to get a utility patent on an entire category of cannabis to apply for that patent and then release it into the public domain and let everybody work in that category. And then let them get a few specific plant patents that cover individual plants that they want to commercialize. Why not do that?
Well, there's other ways to.
Yeah, maybe they want a utility patent on the process. I mean,
there's no process. Like, the breeding is just traditional breeding. There's no process.
Well, then how come there were no THCV varieties, pure THCV varieties before man made them?
Look, it's an invention. It's new. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that, like, there's a lot of ways we can exert control over how this industry goes.
But how though? How if someone, like, say one of the companies that, you know, has this patent or these patents decides that they don't want to adopt the rules that the community decides altogether, kumbaya, they're gonna make by the fire, you know, up in the mountains. Like, what happens when they decide that they want to
be a hippie?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that this industry needs to understand that it's no longer kumbaya time, right? It's real business doing real business things, and we have to deal with that. Right? I'm not trying to be like the guy that's saying, let's go patent everything and do all that shit. I'm really not. I'm just saying that this is the reality of the world that we work in. So,
yeah, this is the reality.
What system can we truly put in place that's going to stop people from doing that? A, sharing all these genetics, which nobody wants to do because everybody's fucking greedy, right? Like, everybody's out for themselves.
What
It's the way it is. It's like, I mean, even look at Prop 64. If everybody had if all the growers of California had got together and done what was right for the growers, they could have put forth a good system, but there was no money. Nobody stepped up, right? And therefore, the de facto one that came in was this Facebook guy or whatever his name was, right? Sean Parker, right? He was the guy that put up the money. So his proposition became the de facto proposition because it was funded, because nobody else wanted to work together. And that's the real lesson that I think that we have to learn as a community. It's not about the patents and us worrying about, like, few groups. It's like, we need to work together towards building a system that's actually going to work for us. And let's find out what that route is. Let's talk about what that route is.
You know, can I ask you, Ryan, what are some of the things you feel like the community can do? Because you are on both sides of this. You feel that it's a matter of fact thing, Monsanto plants, but you also feel like these big industries shouldn't, hold on, let me finish my thought, shouldn't be able to come along and fuck off the industry.
Yeah, it's a misnomer that Monsanto patents plants. I think for the most part, Monsanto patents gene constructs that they then put into plants, and that's the utility. Right, so those gene constructs are actually a utility patent. They're not plant patents.
What are some of the things you think we can do as an industry to protect the industry?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. I mean, I'd love to say let's just let it all be a distributed. I mean, there's so many facets of that conversation, from genetics to production. I mean, let's look at the production model in California. They allowed it to become this system that was crowdsourced production. But then what happened at the Emerald Cup last year? We all saw the results, right? There was all this contamination, mold contamination and pesticide use in an organic market. So people can't be trusted. People have to have regulation, and that's why we talk about regulation. And we all fear the change. We all want to know if we're going to be able to make it onto the other side of the change. But that's what it is dealing with regulations. And regulations are there to protect all of our patients, all of our people that are using our flowers. And when you look at it that way, I don't see how anybody can complain, as long as the regulations are reasonable and based on scientific principles.
Well, that's a lot to ask.
The regulations are for people who want to sell things and make a profit. If you want to use it for your own personal use, you don't need no regulations. You don't need no freaking analysis. But if you want to sell it for profit, then I'd say we have to protect consumers.
I wonder if people are even aware that in the legal hemp market in Europe and all over the world, you actually can't legally grow a variety unless it's a registered variety. Right? You can't get subsidies in Europe for growing. I guess you could legally grow it, but
you can't get the subsidies.
You can't get the subsidy.
This is going to sound funny, but the only thing Ben Dronkers actually got convicted for in cannabis was exactly what you're talking about, because some of the cultivars that were grown by some of the farmers were not the registered varieties because they wouldn't finish in time. So the farmers were trying to finish things that would finish in time in Holland.
It wasn't even that, Todd. It's that each farmer had to keep the bags from the varieties he used to prove what he used. And he went and planted all the farmer's property and took all the bags with one machine. And that's what caused the legal problem.
Because they couldn't prove that they were using the registered cultivars.
Yeah, they were using the right ones, but they couldn't prove it because they didn't keep the bags on their property like required by the subsidy law.
Is that what they?
It would be a technicality.
Is that what they mean when you say you got left holding the bag?
No, that's what it means when he got left not holding the bag.
Right.
He tossed the bags, unfortunately, or wasn't able to produce them to actually represent what the. I guess that's what the country law is. Then I guess, right?
It's legal to grow any hemp variety in the Netherlands, but it has to be low THC, below the limit, and it does not have to be a registered variety unless you want to get subsidy. And the farmers make more from subsidy than they do selling their crop, so subsidy is kind of important.
I'm quite sure, though, the EU actually passed a law that they haven't. It's an EU law. It's not a individual country law, but it says that you can't actually, as a seed company, you can't even sell seeds that aren't varieties, that aren't registered varieties.
Yeah, but they don't stop anybody from doing it. But technically,
not yet. They don't. But it is technically on the books that they've put that law in place. So it goes to show the degree of regulatory capture that exists in these industries, right? Like,
and if you grow tomatoes here in the Netherlands, it has to be a particular registered variety. You can't just grow your own tomato seeds and sell them on the marketplace.
Yeah. Really?
Well, as scary as it may seem, this big business coming down the pipeline, trying to own everything up, cannabis has just come through some serious years of prohibition. And I'm not just talking about the last 70 for our country or 100 or whatever it's been, but literally this plant has fought persecution for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It'll be interesting to see how it can fight, covert oppression and ownership.
Mark, I don't think past a few hundred years ago it was ever illegal or looked at in a bad light. Starting from a few hundred years ago back, it was viewed as a medicine, as all sorts of things. But no, I don't think anybody was hanging anybody.
Well, I know in what was it, the 16th century, Sam? They were ripping out the Sufis' teeth with pliers for eating hashish.
In Egypt, they were pulling out people's teeth. I think it was like the 1450s or 1550s, around then. From then on, yes.
Yes, that's all I'm saying. It goes back a lot further than 100 or 200.
I have a question for you, Mowglie. How do you think your DNA work will help people Okay, with relationships, that's a bit clearer. You can explain that a little bit. But evolution, how is cannabis DNA going to help us with evolution studies?
So we just need more samples in the database. I mean, what it lets you do ultimately is track how things are related, and then you can track how they moved around the globe. I mean, we want to figure out how it traveled from continent to continent. It's going to help us tell that story, you know, but we definitely need a lot more data in there to do that. And sequencing the modern stuff, even though I do think it will help block patenting in a small but important way. And I think people are freaked out too much about how much it puts them at risk. I don't think it puts people at risk at all. But sequencing the modern stuff does not help with that evolutionary story, right? We just need to get more and more old samples and see how they're related.
Well, don't you think birds had a lot to do with spreading it around, even more so maybe than humans? I mean, realistically speaking.
I mean, humans brought it with them everywhere. It's a, you know, it's a camp follower plant. So I don't know about the birds, but it's a...
No, cannabis seeds don't do well through
most
bird's
of them,
gut.
It's very seldom that a cannabis seed will pass through most birds and be able to germinate. I mean, it's possible, but seldom.
Well, let me add my 2 cents to that, and I don't have the studies right here in front of me, but cannabis seed is unaffected by passing through most birds and most seed eaters who go after it. In fact, the cannabis plant itself keeps them wrapped up in the stuff that makes birds susceptible to predators. It's really a bird and a bug repellent, and the seeds easily pass through birds in a pile of poo sitting on the ground. Water gets in it, it germinates, and I mean, that's how Mother Nature's been doing it for a long time. You can make a big argument for mankind.
No problem. But I've watched birds crack cannabis seeds, eat the meat, and spit the fucking shells out.
Some do, but most of your small birds who are like wrens and stuff like that don't. They swallow them whole, and they don't have a better way of getting at it. The seeds are very hard as well. So anyway, I'm going to coin a new term today. Tony and I invented last night. We made some, instead of temple balls, we made terpel balls. And we made temple balls and we added terpenes to it. And now we're going to call them terpel balls because they are out fucking standing. They smell and smoke like nobody's business. And
what terpenes did you use?
We did different ones. We put some red Congolese and some lemon. And Tony will be on in a while from his car, and he'll know that better than I'll be able to tell you, because I was kind of overwhelmed last night by all the different terpenes and stuff they brought with him. But anyway, we made a lot of trichrome separation last night. The best plant, I think, was
Wi-Fi.
120. I don't know if it was Wi-Fi or not. One of them gave us 120 grams per pound.
That's
a
pretty good sift return.
The least one, the one that gave the less, was 92 or 94 grams per pound. It definitely whacks water hash in the ass, a good hard one. And it's not wet and it's dry, and as Tony said, wow, this is terpene rich. This smells great. Sorry, Mowglie.
It's all really going to be shown in the photo. When Tony just takes a simple photo of what it actually is.
Well, it is what it is, because we took some photos with the iPhone and zoomed in on it because I've got a microscopic lens, and that's what it is. We just finished before he left here. We took some and ran it through the 156 thread per inch screen.
Right, but I mean for everyone else, like when you tell your stories, all of those words will just evaporate once a simple photo is shown, because the photo is everything. And I saw the photos you sent me. Those aren't the photos I'm talking about.
No, we took a photo of the stuff that we put through the 156 thread per inch.
Well, I can't believe Tony didn't bring his camera lens, because he has the camera. You guys could have found out in a second exactly the ratio of heads to anything else that was going on there in very clear, easy. You can even put it up on a big monitor. So I'm looking forward to that photo so much.
Well,
I can't even
he
tell you.
forgot it. He forgot it, and he was mesmerized by the process last night when we did it because he couldn't look away. I was trying to get his attention because he was standing in the way while I was making the video, and he couldn't even hear me. He was just totally zeroed in on what was happening, and he turned around and looked at me and he said, "I've never seen that happen that fast ever." He goes, "That blew my fucking mind."
Yeah, dude. It's amazing. There's no doubt about it. Props. Salutations, Indra.
Yeah, no big deal. Anyway, we made these turple balls, and let me tell you, they are so nice. I rolled them, I hand rolled them, and so afterwards, your hands, of course, smelled like the terps, and we
As
smoked.
long as the temple balls don't smell like your hands.
Yeah, right. But you wouldn't want them to smell like real balls, right?
Todd's laughing right now, but here's the thing. Like, we had a Legends of Hash dinner one time in Amsterdam years ago, like on 10 or maybe it was 10. I can't remember. But everyone was always very excited to bring their best to the Legends of Hash. They would make their best water hash. They would make their best dry sift. People would bring anything that they thought was worthy to, because for me, I wouldn't sell you a ticket unless you had something worthy. Like I wasn't promising any of my friends tickets. They had to show me something worthy to get into the party. And that really ensured that we had really great hash. But this one guy, he basically hand rubbed like 7-gram bar, and it looked like a beautiful bar of caramel. Hand rubbed like the nicest heads off his indoor plants. And we were just like, holy shit, like everyone was pretty excited about it. Todd and Emilio from Trippy Sticks were there, and Trippy Stick guy, Emilio's hitting his Trippy Stick. He's got his little vaporizer, vape pen, and he ends up putting in a hit of this hand rub. And I don't know if he hit it first or Todd hit it first. I know one of them hit it first, and it was like, oh my God, that tasted like feet. Like literally the first rip of the vapor was just the oils from this guy's hands. He was probably like all excited and sweaty and in his room, just like rubbing it up. But I'll tell you, I never seen a 7-gram chunk of hash just go from hero to zero.
You want to know something really funny? I still have that piece.
It was from hash. It was from 10. So that was
whatever
a long
year
time
it was
ago.
from. I still have that piece because it was really unsmokable. I mean, I really, really like the guy for trying hard, but to be honest, it was unsmokable.
We had a new vaporizer set up for every sample, and when I dropped that into the vaporizer and touched it, it just tasted like like oils in your mouth. And then Emilio asked me, "Hey, can I have that?" And I handed it to him, and he was the one that almost spit. Tastes like feet.
To be honest, even if it tasted like and smelled like dirty feet, as long as it was Irie, I probably would have smoked it. But it was not Irie at all.
So how did you end up with the bar in the end? Did he just leave it and you just picked it up at the end of the night?
Sam always ended up with the bars.
Because Legends sort of leaked out of my brain into Marcus's brain, and we sort of created it.
We did, and it was always kind of a known fact at the end that anything that was left over was Sam's. He lived there, nobody else really did, and it was like, yeah, of course. Like there was never tons left over. I mean, we would put,
especially when we started loading up that hubbly bubbly. Sometimes I'd have to whip out several film cans more just to keep that hubbly bubbly going, because you could put 5 or 10 grams in at a time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'll never forget that. That is for sure. We got to maybe get
boys. I gotta leave you now. I got a train to catch.
Hey, thanks for coming in, Mowglie. Always a good conversation. Hope that you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah,
Thank
likewise.
you very much for what you're doing too. I hope you can help protect the industry.
Be careful catching.
Chimera, we're gonna have to get on the phone so we can get started on the.
Yeah, you know where to find me.
2 years of arguments we're gonna be having about this.
Hey, no better people to work together than those that sort of have opposing views and can show each other another perspective. You know, that's that to me is how you innovate right there, not by separating and doing things separately, but putting those minds together.
Now, when I first met Mowglie, there were no cannabis plant patents. Well, that has now changed.
Yeah.
Hey, and don't think for a minute, Camara, that I don't appreciate your school of matter of fact. You know, and I've always dug that when you're over here and talking to you, and you know, I like where you come from. Sometimes I just got to understand it and break it down a little bit, but I always kind of like where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I don't mean to come off and be rude. It's just you got to understand the way these patent things work. It's like, imagine there was only boxes with no locks on them, and then all of a sudden you came along and stuck a lock on this box, and all of a sudden could protect everybody's stuff that you put in your box, right? If that had never been done before, that last step is enough to be a patent, because it essentially defines what the use of the product is, right? And so anytime you do that kind of step to a plant and you make it new or something that doesn't exist and it has a use, somebody can claim it. And you know, I think the point that Mowgli is really raising is, to what degree can you claim it?
No, but that's not the. I mean, you guys should all realize that when Chimera talks about the legal details or the scientific details of this stuff, he knows what he's talking about. Like, nothing that he's saying is incorrect. He understands this better than most of us do. It's just that I don't think people are taking seriously enough what a gigantic threat to the industry very, very broad patents are. It's going to absolutely transform the way that the future of cannabis shapes up. And I mean, the details of how it works, you know, are complicated, but these patents are really going to just completely change the landscape. And, you know, the way things work in the normal ag world now is kind of fucked up. Yeah. And and it has been very different in cannabis. It's been this crowdsourced creation process. Yeah. And that could stop. And if there are things we can do to keep it from going the way of the normal ag world, we have to do them.
Well, there's other forces that are also taking it away from this distributed network of growers that we have, this distributed production system. You know, there's all this regulation where they're giving few licenses to few big companies.
I know, but the thing is, we have to fight that too, because if what we care about is the potential of this plant, then the absolute foundation of that is the incredible diversity of the plant.
I agree with you.
To preserve that diversity, we need to have IP protection that preserves it, and we also have to preserve the economic diversity that's out there, because it's all those little farms that work on this stuff and that make it new. If it comes down to just a few producers, then
that's one thing I love about the new California model, is that they've.
It's time for you to come out.
Who's this?
No, Mom, isn't it time for you to come out?
I gotta go.
Train.
Awesome.
I'm being summoned. Bye, everyone.
Go enjoy your family, Mowgli. Thanks for coming on.
That was the best exit in Hash Church history, I think.
We talked about this even last year at the Emerald Cup. We had a panel and we talked about this stuff. And you know, I said it back then. Support your local labs. Go and get your stuff analyzed. And when you do that, what you're actually doing is you're contributing to the public domain, the information that's in the public domain. Right? And that's what Mowglie was saying, is that the more information we have in the public domain, the better the public domain is defined, the harder it is for somebody to come along and try to claim like a whole class of plants.
Right.
Ryan, do you have any idea how many different wine clone grapes for wine are actually grown? It's less than 500, isn't it, worldwide?
Yeah, I think it's about 300, but I'm not really the authority on that.
I think it's something like that is what I remember. So I'm telling you, in the future, won't that happen to cannabis? Won't it be down to a few hundred clonal varieties that are reproduced as clones, just like wine is? Wine is not an annual like cannabis, but
no. But one of the difficulties in wine is that it takes 7 years to get a crop that you can actually start harvesting grapes and making wine, right? So that's a lot of work and a lot of time to wait.
Yeah, but it's what I'm really talking about is the fact that they're able to satisfy the entire wine industry with 300 clones.
Yeah, but
can I bring up something though, Sam, and Ryan too? You can't really grow grapes in your closet.
No, well, that's one of the things is that the breeding system of cannabis has kind of brought about, and the this distributed production system from seed has really brought around this situation where you get a lot of people trying to find what they like, which is not, it's not like wine, right? Wine drinkers don't get to contribute to the choice.
Well, I guess what I'm really saying is that that's probably the way that wine started. People probably took seeds out of their grapes, spit them on the ground, and grew them until finally it became more sophisticated and they used cuttings. They used clones. That's what cannabis has become. I mean, in 1970, nobody was growing clones. Now, almost everybody grows clones.
Yeah.
I mean, the industry has changed. It's not going back. We're going to find clones which are resistant to pests, resistant to disease, give double the yield with the specific cannabinoid and terpene profiles we're after. And the resin properties we're after. Big, giant heads that are as big as grapes, or might be exaggerated a little bit.
I'd love to see that.
The difference about cannabis is that there seems to be this, well, I mean, we all know the amount of variation that you see on any given trade is huge. You know, from seed size to cannabinoid levels to flavor. It's really, really quite incredible. And I keep seeing new terpene profiles all the time, like new terpenes that I didn't, you know, I never saw in really, really high proportions that are coming up as like, you know, 10% of the terpene content. So I think that there's going to be a lot of room for different areas of development in terms of smell, and that'll probably make it exist that given how many different cannabinoid chemotypes there are, if you do the combinatorial between those two factors, you're going to get a lot. There's a lot of different possibilities. So.
No, I like where you're coming from. You're trying to come from the matter of fact, explaining what's happening in other areas of plant science, and you're really on the side of us who's saying that, look, we have to be forewarned. This is what's going to happen if we don't, pay due diligence to this and realize this shit's going on in a post-prohibition world.
Guaranteed big money will come in and try to make as much money as they can from every facet of this industry. I mean, that's definitely not a surprise to anybody, is it?
Well, the only
people listening might not realize you slept over my house and we're friends. I mean, one of the reasons I so easily will challenge you or interact with you is because I really like you, and I know you know what you're talking about. So
same, and that's how you get a deeper understanding when we all. Yeah.
The only thing that's going to stop these big giant guys is the fact that I've inserted SK1 in all of the DNA worldwide of every cannabis variety that's ever been developed. but don't tell anybody.
So are S and K new base pairs that we don't know about yet?
Yeah, I synthesize them in my lab.
I mean, I think K is the amino acid lysine, right? And S is serine. So,
do you send the SK1 out in little storks every night? Is there a whole fleet of them that goes out, Sam, that goes and infects all the genetics?
No, what I do is I produce 100 billion tons of pollen, and what everybody thought was jet chemtrails. It's actually, I pay them, and they're dumping my pollen everywhere worldwide.
Great. So you're telling us is that these chemtrails is plant cum. Is that what you're telling us?
SK plant cum.
SK1 plant cum.
Yes. Well, there's a few different kinds. It depends on the country. That's absurd and ridiculous, and it made me laugh. I appreciate that. Good to have a good laugh in the morning after a little bit of intense conversation in the Hash Church panel. We're passionate about this shit. We say.
Well, and people are wondering, and that's why I'm very thankful to have people like, Chimera as well as Todd, because we can have both sides of the discussion, because people want to know the facts. People are curious, and that's why I appreciate Todd's coming from the curious. And of course, you are as well, Chimera, because you're so curious. You went to school and you learned it. Now you actually can synthesize and actually do the science in a way that shows many people watching that we need more chimeras out there that are going to school, that are getting these degrees and have the education to challenge these concepts, because we're at a very unique time and space. We're in this change between a black market turning into a light market, and the changes that come within, as well as we're going to see, as we see other industries coming in. So people want to know what industries are coming in. How is it going to affect our realities in the future? And these are the ideas and concepts that we could have never thought years ago, but because we've moved the discussion, we're currently at this juncture where we have to realize that big business can now look at this. Big business can now step into this world where it was some very few outliers and some crazy son of bitches like myself that were taking the risks, many moons ago, that today those risks are becoming less and less inherent so that these companies can come in. So we're at a unique time in history where we're seeing a shift completely in the paradigm, as well as the access to the paradigm, because in the past I couldn't send food and cannabis food stuff because I wanted to actually break down some cannabis food Berkeley Patients Group was making, and I wanted to do testing, and I started doing testing and finding out that these edibles, depending on how the butter layered into a particular cookie and where it was tested, depended on the concentrate within the cookie. So it started to show me the saturation problem. So I wanted to then send this to real food chemists here in the Bay Area. That's all they do, is they're like the 3M of food. All they deal with is taking food and making it better. But I couldn't send them the cannabis food. I could send them the recipe without the cannabis inside of it, but I couldn't send them that with the cannabis in it, so I could get a better, more even saturation, etc. So it's the challenges of the legality here soon, now that it will be legal for adults 21 and over. Now I can send that food sample, if per se I don't have it anymore, but I could now send it to these chemists so they could now look at, okay, what kind of butter is a better saturate to get an even cut through this particular cookie. Is just giving you my idea of just concept and how the whole paradigm will now change, because we can now take it to these food scientists so they can actually do the test with the cannabis inside it, whereas in the past that wasn't possible unless they were a patient, and none of them were patients or were willing to go through that pathway to receive it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really a good thing for California in the long run. I mean, they just let out a whole bunch of people, or they're talking about letting out a whole bunch of people that are in prison. So, and there's definitely changes that are starting. I think it's so far.
Once cannabis is truly legal, I mean really truly legal, not only interstate but between countries, then look at how other things are produced. Look how coffee's produced. Look how tea is produced. Look how roses, cut flowers are produced. They can be produced organically or not, and they arrive by jet at your doorstep.
No, they're produced by hippies who demand high prices for overpriced organic material. That's where they come from.
You're not talking flowers. I'm talking different kind of flowers. I was kidding. I'm talking roses.
Roses, baby. I was kidding, of course. Hippies would never overcharge for an organic vegetable plant. Never.
That's right, never. Hey, Mark, did you get the Turple Ball pictures?
I did, absolutely, yes.
Feel free to post them if you want.
Oh, Tony can't get in. I just got a message from him as well. You know what I really wanted to post was...
It took me 4 tries.
Yeah, I'll just tell him to keep trying. Tell him to keep trying because we need to see it.
No, it's a great conversation. We're all wondering about it, and I think these conversations are important to have in the community, for sure.
There's Tony.
Welcome, Tony.
I was just sending him a message saying, keep trying. It's been fucked.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, I love that. Can you hear me now? Isn't that like a famous cell phone commercial?
No.
Can you hear me now? We can hear you.
No, it's what Alexander Graham Bell said over the telephone the first time.
To Watson.
Can you hear me, Watson?
Funny.
Well, I'm sorry I'm late. I was out patenting Hash Church, and basically all of your conversations and everything that's ever been discussed in all of the episodes is now under a utility patent under Hash Church. So
it's too late. It's public domain. It became public domain as soon as we released it.
And there the argument starts again.
I'm definitely going to challenge this patent.
So did Indra show you the temple balls?
You showed me the turple balls. Let me see if I can move it over to my thing. Do this.
Did my text come in with a picture of it? Because I finally...
I don't know. Here, though. I'll try to... Whoa, what the hell? Application window? Oh, there we go. So, turple balls. You see that shit?
Did you get my picture?
I don't know.
Doesn't matter. My picture's better. There it goes.
I didn't. What did you send me a picture through Messenger or through text? I did not.
Little balls of goodness, it looks like.
I did not get a picture from Tony. Anyway, there are the turtle balls. There are the turtle balls. I didn't get any picture from you.
Oh, it said it failed. Here, I'll send it to you because it was in the morning light.
Ah, the morning light. Any good photographer knows all about that morning light. All those turtle balls look pretty sweet.
They will knock your dick in the dirt.
I hope you kept some in powder so you can like photograph it.
No.
Yeah, I do.
You don't understand the process. Once you mix it and it starts firming up, it's no longer a powder.
I understand the process, Indra. I was just saying I hope you kept some that was not pressed into balls.
Can't do that. You still have some of the trichromes, but once you mix it with the oil.
I'm not talking about the oil. I'm talking about just the resin that was made so he can photograph it. That's all.
He's got some of that.
I know. Yes, right away.
Maybe your hat's too tight.
No, hat. He answered me yes right away. You answered no and then went on, and I was trying to explain to you that I was in a different book. I was on not a different page, but I was actually on a different book in regards to just making sure some of that was available to photograph, because that's I think that it's a big deal, the photograph, like first time I photographed Sam's 99.9%, like that changed everything. Like it literally changed everything. It literally, like everyone just went, meow, took a turn. Like suddenly there was a thing that because it's like we all say, oh, I got this and it's super. But when you can just see it up close and show that to everyone, it's such a powerful image of just those little balls that.
Yeah, but it'd be even better to smoke them. I mean, let's be honest.
Absolutely.
We could all smoke them.
Absolutely. But even then, just to be able to see them, like hundreds of thousands of people saw that image over the course of a dozen or 10 years or whatever it was. A lot of people saw that image. It inspired people to want to acquire it. To want to be able to make it. So
I have signed copies available.
There you go. Signed copies from Indra of the little like turtle balls. Well, they look beautiful. I hope Tony makes like a nice video of them bubbling and melting away on a nail with the macro lens. Although Tony's gone again.
We did burn some this morning, and it was really all you could do to hold it in, and it was just a real head hammer. instantaneous and right now. We mixed train wreck oil and I guess the one that what's his name down at Harborview likes so much, his trichromes. And we put red Congolese and lemon kush terpenes in it and rolled them up. Tony last night was like, "Are you sure this is going to work? Because that doesn't look like it's changing into temple balls to me." And I said, "Look, you just have to wait till everything in the conglomerate gets to be the same temperature. When the oil and the trichromes are the same temperature, then we'll dig it out and roll it up in the balls." And he goes, "I don't know. It doesn't look like it's going to work." And then this morning, I got up early and rolled them all up. And he woke up and he's like, "Oh, we still got to try to do that." And I said, "You mean these?" And I handed him the dish full of them. And then he was like, "It worked." So
that's awesome.
It was kind of funny watching it.
It's always nice to watch people have revelations.
Oh, he was having a revelation when we were separating the terpenes off last night. He was revelating like crazy. He
excuse me.
We did 5 pounds, 1 pound at a time. And he was just mesmerized by it. He couldn't stop getting down and looking at it and seeing how. And he kept turning around looking at me and goes, "Man, this takes me 6 hours and it just took you 45 seconds." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's why you came here, to understand how that works."
Hey, 5 hours and 59 minutes is a long time when you're standing in front of the microwave. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Someone said they wanted to see a picture of just heads. I have some of Cubans, actually, that I managed to find here. Just the trichome heads. Well, let's see where we go here. There we go. Boom.
Yeah, I don't have a camera that'll get that close of a picture.
Tony does. Tony has that exact camera that I have, so he'll be able to take a picture.
It's like crystal caviar.
It's like crystal caviar, man. It's insane. Absolutely redonkulous. It's
well,
to achieve.
Considering that we got the 120 grams that were available there, I'm sure some good percentage of them are just heads like that, because that was complete. You could look in the after material and you could dip your hand in it and shake it around, and you didn't get any trichromes on your hands even. So we had a very complete.
Photograph that too.
Huh?
He can photograph that as well. That's it's so important. I can't believe he didn't bring the lens, because it's just such a key thing to have, to be able to get there, like, to have that prosthetic that goes so much closer than the naked eye, and be able to blow it right up and see what's going on. Clearly I'm obsessed with macro photography, but that's another topic for another.
Well, John, you're not that far from me, John, and I could do some really nice photography for you. Really show what you're doing perfectly.
Well, Tony finally bought the MPE. You should go shoot with him, Todd.
I'll show him how to layer too.
Yeah, he's all about it. He's a good photographer and a good videographer, but at the same time, it's a bit of a tricky lens when you first get it, and it can be a little bit overwhelming when you first get it, and you feel like you just can't get a good shot with it.
It is so tricky that there is a review online of the lens where the reviewer couldn't get a photo using the lens, but still wrote the review of how much he liked the lens, even though he couldn't get it to work.
If you could really do the super close-ups with multiple layers so that you've got incredible depth of field, that would be really beautiful, Todd.
Yeah, that's what I could do. Yep. And Tony can too. It's just that we have to set him up. I'll school him on it. He just needs some additional software.
Right.
Where are you even at, Todd?
I'm in the East Bay, up on top of the hills, looking down on San Francisco.
Oh, East Bay. Yeah, I'm a 4-hour drive north of that. A little bit 4.5, I think. Tony,
I'll jump in the truck anytime, buddy. It's a little bit of equipment I got to drag up, but it would be fun.
Here, check this out. This is one of the first photos I took of Sam's resin. You can really see the difference in the maturity between his and Cuban. There's a tiny little bit of contaminant in this one. That's one from way back, like 2008, I think.
It's more than a decade old.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm trying to find like some of the really good ones, like the best ones that I took of yours, which would be good to share because it's just, oh yeah, it's
probably the ones that looked the prettiest that I cleaned up was Slee Stack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that Slee Stack was on point. Super beautiful. Hard to find them though. Such beautiful things to see all these. I got to do another MPE live stream one of these days because it's definitely, it's fun to talk about photography and cannabis photography.
Yes, one of us needs to break down and get an electron microscope.
Ooh, hell yeah,
they're cheap, right?
Oh yeah. You can get them for next to nothing.
Actually, you can if you don't mind getting old university cast-offs that are no longer relevant in the research field.
No problem.
I saw a couple of them on governmentsurplus.com.
Oh yeah.
And you can find there's a couple of used scanning black and white electron. Of course, they're all black and white, but the newer ones pseudo color and do other things.
Right.
So I think they were in the price range of like $3,000 to $5,000, which is not bad.
John, this photo that's up right now is something you'll recognize, and this is what Sam is talking about when he says 100% depth of field. This is a layered photograph.
Oh, I can't find Sam's shots, so I'm going to stop looking because I could be looking through my 180,000 shots here forever. But
can you see that, John?
Yes.
To me, yeah.
OG Kush.
Yeah. This is extended depths of field using the layering technique. These are all live plants I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah, you can tell by the trichomes they're live. Live ones are the best. I love live ones. Here's a.
But also, you get that evenness across the flower too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can use your eyes to look around the photo instead of it just being a spot, and it's kind of scientific photography.
And here's just the spot.
Yeah.
No layers, one shot.
I love your spots though. I've always dug it.
Yeah, they're both an interesting, different way of doing it. Like being able to see that whole. Christopher Rex is pretty incredible as well from Dynasty Genetics. Got to give a mad shout out to him doing some pretty quality macro shots as well.
Really, really high quality.
Getting interested in it.
Yeah, his stuff is absolutely amazing. No.
Fucking awesome. We got going in. Slee Stack has NL5 haze in it. Is that what it has in it? Crossed with that skunk too. That was because that's the one Sam's talking about. The Slee Stack had the skunk in it, correct, Sam?
I did it both ways, but I think the best one was actually pure Slee Stack.
Really?
For the cleanliness, yes.
But the amounts that you got from the skunk, I remember it was really producing resin.
I think the cleanest ones I did that had large amounts of was pure Slee Stack. It worked as easy as skunk for making really, really high quality, pure, almost pure resin heads. But
it was such nice resin. I thought I'd see it a lot more. I have to admit, I was super surprised to see that resin come and go and never see it again. It was all oil after that, like year of dry sift. Everything I saw from DNA after that was oil. And I was always like, oh, you guys got to like get back on that dry sift game. Man, I'll tell you.
Well, that's the thing that's nice about both skunk and Slee Stack is they give a decent yield. I mean, with dry sift, you never get a great yield, but it's decent, and the quality of both of them is superb.
What's the lineage of Slee Stack?
What's that?
What is Slee Stack?
It's a variety from DNA seeds.
No, I was wondering what it originated in.
I think it's a cross of Martian mean green and
Strom.
What?
And Strom.
Okay, there you go. And I've never smoked either one of those.
You never smoked either one of those?
No. You got to remember, I'm an incredibly boring guy.
Right.
First of all, I like resin. And second of all, most people don't have resin that's good enough.
Well, one thing I liked about DNA and when those guys showed up in Amsterdam is they had the fire pretty much right away. Like anything I saw their material run, it produced pretty melty product. And when they first introduced me to the Martian Mean Green, it was like completely full melt, drip through the screen, like high quality hash. That would have been back in like 2004, I think. Is that when they showed up in Amsterdam?
Yeah,
Something like that, yes.
Yeah. I would say yes, around then.
But
they had the lab coats on. I'll never forget it. They both were like these characters.
Don and Aaron are great.
Yeah.
They always have high quality. Those guys are so awesome. I love when they bring anything to the party.
Yeah, they really changed up the cups too, because it seemed like before that it was really kind of Adam and Doug that would throw these parties, and Adam would do all these unique and funny things for the cup, like the Trichome Challenge, and he was like a big energy behind the cups and sort of like part of that special vibe that happened. And DNA just sort of came into town, and it wasn't very long in that they were just throwing the parties. Those hot box parties were absolutely insane. Good fun, dilated peoples, and just great music. And
they both got great personality, and they're both a lot of fun to be around. They're both funny. Yeah, it's not hard to see how they became very popular in the industry. They're very likable guys.
For sure, they are. Yeah. Yeah, you know what, John? You know how you said "loosen your hat" to me earlier?
Yeah.
I think I figured out why my face looks so red in this hat, because it's got the red reflective, because I'm really like at times look at myself and I look like my hat is too tight. It looks like my forehead's red, but I assure you my hat is not too tight.
I was just pulling your leg.
I know, I felt it. I looked down at one point and was like, is John under my desk?
One leg was longer suddenly.
One leg was longer suddenly.
Can I tell you a funny? I just saw what your shirt says, and for a while I thought it was a guy like pissing on a plant.
Whoa, no.
I only saw part of it, and I was like, what is going on with his shirt? Maybe it's like nitrogen or something.
Don't grow blind, man.
Don't grow blind.
Don't do it.
Are you saying that blind people can't grow?
No, not at all. I mean, listen, after my friend Tim introduced me to a whole group of blind skiers, he teaches kids to ski on this the mountain and they're blind, I was like, blind people can do anything. Like, it's really quite incredible. When you have a little bit of help and you learn about the rest of your senses, that blew me away. I would have never.
I have a stupid question. How do blind people avoid trees?
Hold on. I can speak to this. My brother and father are both born blind.
Please.
I have spent they can actually hear the air. I am not kidding you. They can actually hear the air move around things. I could not sneak up upon my father in socks on linoleum within 10 paces, and he could hear either me breathe or the air around me move. So they are that well at it. So on top of that, they also learn tricks to have sticks as well as dogs. But that being said, I wouldn't teach either of them how to grow. And I would be afraid of the products they would come up with.
I'm going to have to YouTube blind skiers downhill challenge now.
Yeah.
Hey, I taught my brother how to ride a bike, the two-wheel bike, who's blind. So, I mean, they can do everything. We used to tell people, close your eyes.
I always thought you were a cool brother.
Hold on. Now, close your eyes. Now, what about you is different other than you can't see? Nothing. So you can do anything you want, no matter your disability. So that's one of the things that my brother and father both taught me, because my father was the first blind lawyer in Louisiana, graduated from Loyola back in early 60s, which very difficult to do, needless to say, just as a lawyer, much less Louisiana law, much less add now a disability on top of that. So anything is possible. My brother Andre was born without eyeballs and is also autistic, but even he is a functional member of society and lives in a group home and works for the Lighthouse for the Blind in New Orleans to this day, putting together either dialysis kits or making brooms, mops, etc. He's completely able, even though he handicapped people like that tend to go to what's called a living skills center. And so when he went through the living skills center, it was deemed that he was not able to live on his own. So he cannot live on his own. So he lives in a group setting. But yeah, anything is possible if you apply your mind.
Listen, I don't remember where the head shop was, but I used to go to a head shop where they had a blind girl rolling all the joints back around 6 or 7 years ago, somewhere down in the Bay Area. And she rolled the most perfect joints ever. And she was rolling them and not really looking at it while she was doing it. And I was standing there like an idiot. I said, "Hey, those are really nice joints." And she didn't even look up. And she said, "Thank you very much." And I said, "Where did you learn to roll like that?" She said, "Oh, just trying to make a living." And she had sunglasses on. And I said, "Stupid me." I said, "What are you wearing sunglasses for in here? It's already dark." And she's like, "Oh, well, for me, it's completely dark. I'm blind." So that was me putting my foot in my mouth expertly, taking it out and putting the other one back in on an exchange program.
Yeah. It happens sometimes. It's definitely the worst thing to say to someone, like, if in anger, is like, "What are you, blind?" Is guaranteed another good foot in the mouth.
Sometimes blind people are so able that you can't tell that they're blind. I mean,
on top of that, we have these things called blindisms, which you'll learn by being around blind people, that they will do these little tricks to be, when they know they're around sighted people who realize they're blind, they'll use it to take advantage of them, to get them to do things for them, etc. So we've also learned how the handicapped can manipulate through their even own intelligence to get what they want, by realizing that people look at them differently or act toward them differently, so they will use that to their advantage time and time again.
Why not? I mean, they got shortchanged on eyeballs. If they can pull it off to make everything work a little bit better for them by using that shortchange. If life gives you lemons, make lemonade. You know that. Yeah.
By all means. But these are just things I've learned because I used to go to conventions for the blind. I used to, when they were having meetings, I would go around and go to them and ask them if their dogs needed walking, and 9 times out of 10 they did, and they would give me a quarter per dog that I walked. And whenever you have these large conventions, these facilities will take a floor in a parking lot and then cover it in large swaths of cat litter. So you go down there and you walk the dog and you go back and they'd give you a quarter tip. Well, all these hotels had usually a video machine or an arcade back then. And of course I had a video game addiction. So I could just go spend an hour walking dogs and have more than enough to spend the entire afternoon just on change alone. So we all learn our ways through the reality.
Where's your camera at, Ethan? Where's your camera positioned at? Because when you started telling me your brother and your father were blind, I started suspecting something's going on, because you do a Stevie Wonder in front of your camera. You stare all around except at the camera. And it sort of looks like Stevie Wonder playing the piano and turning his head and looking around. And you know he can't see shit, right?
Yeah, well, I am blind in my right eye, but right above me is my TV screen. And of course, I'm watching football. So I'm multitasking.
That explains it.
That's pretty awesome that you don't, you still maintain your football, but you make it to Hash Church every Sunday.
Oh, with one eye.
I was never this religious when I went to Catholic school. I mean, I learned how to actually crawl into, next month is December 19th, 1976. I actually burned my house down with my first confession candle and then lied about it, which is actually rather hilarious. But I could crawl in, I could sneak into my mom's bedroom, because remember, my mom was the secretary to the Archbishop. So one of her standard rules is we're never late to church. And if we're late to church, we don't go to church, because if the Archbishop sees us coming late, she gets shit. So I could learn to crawl in and sneak in on my back, reach up and grab my mom's alarm clock and just turn the alarm just late enough so by the time it would take to get us all ready, it would be too late, and set it back. And I'd crawl out of the room on my back. And then the alarm would go off too late. No, we can't go to church. Oh, darn, can't go to church.
Is that the reason that you're always the first one here at church? Usually.
Well,
I'm back.
No, I just set my alarm actually about 15 minutes before waking up. So, you know, I'm literally up 15 minutes before this whole thing starts. So just enough to me to wake up, come over, turn on my computer, hit a bong, and we're going.
Yeah.
I don't do early. I did early in the military. You know, 5:30 a.m. I had to be standing tall before the man. And once I was done with that shit, I was like, fuck that early morning shit.
Well,
I'm a late morning person.
I can tell from your hair that you haven't showered yet today.
And as a farmer, I say, I love early shit.
You like worms, is what you're saying?
No, I like getting up early. My mind is clear. There's no confusion. There's no competition for my energy. And I can focus really easy.
How long does that last?
It depends. If I'm really, really toking hard, not long. But I used to not work. I did go to work, and then I didn't smoke until 5 o'clock in the evening. And in those circumstances, it lasted all day.
Was that the prison guard job, or?
No, that's when I was smuggling drugs into the prisons, remember?
Right.
That's when he was a tour guide at Disney.
Meanwhile, sending out SK1 patents all the time. You are just amazing multitasker, Sam. I mean, how do you even do it?
I don't know. I'm just an incredibly busy type guy who's now retired and too lazy to do anything.
Well, I think it's the fuzzy red hat. I was gonna say, Mark, I think it's the fuzzy red hat.
Yeah, or the what are they? The thing around his neck there. What is that? Like a bouffant?
That's a boa. That's called a boa, I believe.
That's a boa.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was like more like a turtleneck thing. Is it like a scarf that's wrapped around his neck, Sam?
It actually is.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, is it Christmas garland?
Yes.
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas garland wrapped around Sam's
He's
neck.
just partying a little bit early.
Nice. Getting right into it. Oh, geez. I like when it shows up as the avatar for Hash Church that week, and it's this friggin' doll.
Did you see it when it was all three of them, right? It was Pinocchio.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all three of them got it.
I'm trying to invite, like, Ethan Russo, and it's like he goes and looks at Hash Church and sees it's a picture of a doll for the avatar.
I think we got a concept episode ahead of us, Mark, where we all show up as dolls, right?
I like that. What doll would you be, right? That would have been the Halloween one.
I got my Jerry Garcia doll upstairs I'll probably use.
Oh, shit.
I have an Opus. I'd use my Opus for sure.
I might have to go for fucking Spider-Man. I'm not even joking.
Your Spidey sense, right?
I can honestly say the only reason I picked this one was, number one, my granddaughter had it. Number two, I said, gee whiz, Sam, I am. I am Sam.
That's hilarious.
I just have to use my live small dog. I don't have any dolls.
Well, teach that dog to sit.
I'll send one in the mail for you.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
You must have grandkids, Indra.
I do, but they're up in Oregon, and
tell them to send you a doll.
Well, she's 10 years old, and she gave up dolls some years ago.
Well, tell them to go in the attic, pull one down, send it to Grandpa.
Exactly.
My granddaughter is 10 years old, will be 11 next month.
Wow, you guys got the same age granddaughters?
I guess so.
And she has zillions of stuffed animals, or she did. Her mom won't allow her to have more than a dozen or two anymore.
Right.
I think my daughter might have a Malibu Barbie downstairs I could send you if you want one.
Chili Boo's disturbing. He's like, what about one of those 5K love dolls?
How about the Ken doll that came along with Malibu Barbie?
I don't have the Ken doll. I think we do. I think we do have a Ken. I can send
Just check the trunk of the car. He's in there.
Is that the anatomically correct one or the one just with the bump?
There are no anatomically correct ones.
Oh yeah, you can buy this whole line of Barbie dolls from Berlin, Germany, and they are very anatomically correct.
I was about to say, some artists actually made a line of genitalized.
They ain't the real thing.
It's the real thing. They're actually having them removed from people and put on these dolls. It's sick, but I'm telling you, it's true.
Technology, man.
Yeah, this is crazy. Well, I think I'm going to have a puff. I think that once the conversation on Hash Church gets so absurd and ridiculous.
Dude, Tony brought all those terps last night, and then this morning, he spilled the red Congolese hash oil on his fingers. And he's sitting there looking at me, and he goes, I actually spilled all those all over my fingers. He goes, here, smell. And he holds his fingers up to my nose. And I'm like, okay, well, rub it on some hash that we've got here so that it's not going to waste. But
the old smell my finger trick, I see.
I know, I was just going to say, so Tony pulled the old smell my fingers on Indra.
The only way it would have worked is if there was terpenes on the fingers. Otherwise, I never would have entertained the thought.
That's what she said.
I would have just smiled at her.
Not the old smell my finger trick. It's pull my finger.
That's even older. You just dated yourself.
Is it older?
Pull my finger
versus the smell my finger. That's that's a topic that we here at Hash Church are going to delve deep into. We're all going to be doing research on this for next week.
Great. So ass terps, is that what we're dealing with?
We'll invite Dr. Lester Grinspoon and all the top names in medicine to come in and have this discussion. And maybe I better have another rip. I'm not quite there yet. Thank you, D420K, for the OG Kush squish that I've been enjoying since he left it here. It's kind of fun to have. I think you would appreciate it. The less and less people have amazing concentrates to offer, but more and more people have really great bud. And it is a nice ability to just be able to take a quarter ounce or an eighth or whatever of nice bud and just squish it and see what you get. I mean, it's not as worthwhile to break it up and try to sift it compared to, oh, what do we got there? Chimera's writing something in the chat room. Composition of the essential oils and extracts of 2 populations of cannabis sativa. Composition of the essential oils and extracts of 2 populations of cannabis sativa. All right. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, sorry, that was the reference that Dr. Sheldon posted.
Okay, cool.
But I just wanted to point out, even on that one, they're myrcene dominant and type 3.
Right.
So which reference was that? Was that the Canadian Journal of Cannabis?
Yeah, I think that
Canadian
was
one.
Yeah, I think so.
So myrcene would make a great dominatrix, is what you're saying.
It's the highest. It's usually the highest terpene. But there are, not in all varieties. Like for example, Trainwreck or Jack Hare.
But we also found when we started to do testing, this is before we started to do terpene testing, we found a majority of the phenotypes were very similar compound-wise. And so that's why we started to drift toward the terpene testing, because that started to give some differential there, as opposed to, I would say, 80% of the phenotypes we were getting were coming across chemically around the same.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and in cannabis, it depends on what chemicals you're looking at. If you're looking at the cannabinoids, there's a lot of variety, but there's really only a few main types, right? There's THC dominant, there's CBD dominant,
And then the mixed type 2, THC and CBD. And that's really what you'll find in drug cannabis, but the rest of it you don't really see. So all the variation that you see in the different varieties is due to terpenes.
Well, that's what we found.
Yeah.
Well, in drug varieties, you also find small amounts of THC and THC V, and also maybe CBDV, but they're usually in small amounts. They're not found in large amounts.
Very small blips.
Like THC, CBD, you find those in relatively large amounts, and especially CBD recently has changed from being 5% to 25%.
When we originally started way back in 2007, all that what we had was the THC sample from Arno, and then playing with that, then we started to find that other larger spike, which turned out to be CBD upon further delving into what was it possible. And it was interesting then to see then start to go, okay, well, what are these other smaller blips that we were getting on the UVH PLC and stuff like that, which was very fascinating in that day. But it's glad to see that now, because we knew one day all these little blips are going to have names. They're all going to know exactly what these are. So ticking them off one by one is definitely makes my heart very happy to see the science, what it's progressed to within just the last 10 years and where it's going.
Well, as much as we see those little blips, though, they really aren't. I mean, if you even if you find like a train wreck, train wreck's an interesting one, for example, because it's got roughly 20%, 15 to 20% THC, but it's got 1% CBG, which is quite high for to see CBG in that kind of level.
No, that's very high.
Yeah, but you don't.
What
really
are some of the effects associated with CBG, Brian?
I don't actually know psychoactively if there are any effects. It might
I've
be
smoked it. It does not get you high, and it does not seem to interfere with or help THC potentiate it or modulate it in any way I could see.
It does other things, though. I believe it inhibits MRSA, which is the superbug that's in a lot of these hospitals with the methicillin-resistant staph, right? So that's pretty cool that it's a cannabinoid is doing something that the antibiotics are.
So CBG was found to be the actual specific cannabinoid there?
I believe it is. I gotta look that up. So
I'm pretty sure CBG is an antibiotic that's useful for many indications like that.
Yeah.
What's the predominant terpene in train wreck while we're on the train wreck subject?
Terpinolene.
Terpinolene. And what's the major terpene in like a Jack Herer or an NL5 haze? What's that spicy haze?
I don't know, because I don't know which one you're talking about. Terpinolene, train wreck is like terpinolene dominant. There's much more terpinolene than anything else. But Jack is about like terpinolene, and then there's about half as much myrcene as there is terpinolene. Right.
Jack is sort of close to what I mean. If you remember the 90s, that NL5 by haze, the Neville's haze, it dominated a lot of the contests back in. When I first got to Amsterdam, it was NL5 by haze, and then it kind of got bred into super silver haze towards the late 90s.
Somebody just gave me an NL5 haze cutting that they grew and selected, and they brought over a sample of the extract, and the extract was really incredible, actually. It was super spicy and unique. It really had something. Spicy is
the best way. I could light up a joint of Neville's haze in a coffee shop that had been blazing 24/7 for 20 years, and it would cut right through the skunk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, remember, too, that the haze NL was not just a simple haze NL. It was a haze NL back crossed with haze again.
Oh, was it?
I'm almost sure of that.
Huh.
Who did that work?
You're saying that NL5 by haze was actually NL5 by haze?
That's what Neville told me back then.
Yeah.
But
he was probably just trying to throw you off his trail.
That could be true, and it could also be more than one version. So, yeah.
Well, whatever it was, my friend went through a couple of packs of it, and he came over with this plant and said, "You got to check this out." And the extract was incredibly terpy, like it was ridiculously terpy. So, I want to grow it in a standardized environment and get it into the lab.
I would say the highest terpene smells that I've ever smelled in any cannabis variety was the original haze in the 70s and 80s. Absolutely.
So it just lost that vigor in the downline selections, or what?
Yeah, well, it's been self so many times, and there wasn't really the real problem is the best haze was created in the very early 70s, late 60s, and it was a hybrid vigor of 3 different Colombian lines: a green one, a magenta one, and a purple one. And when they crossed them a few times, they did poor selections. They just used different males and different females. And every time you selfed them, they were not as good as that fire that they had from the first hybrid generations. So, and now the fire is still there, but what you've got to do is combine it with something else, like Northern Lights or skunk or something else. And then, if you're lucky, you can get a combination that's far superior to either parent.
Would be like the NL5 haze was.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic plant. It really was.
No, a lot of people really liked it. And then I think either it or its progeny became known as super silver haze or something.
Do you know, they're different. They're definitely different. The NL5 by Hayes was the Sensi era of Neville, and then Neville broke up, and then Neville started doing his own thing again, and we saw Neville's haze, and then Neville started hanging out with Aryan, and that was kind of short-lived, but out of that we saw Super Silver Haze. That was around that time, 96, 97, that Neville it was a variation of the NL5 by Hayes, but it was more hazy.
What was your
NL. It didn't get these big fat buds.
What was your NL5 haze like in terms of habit and flower phenotype?
Well, the one I had was I grew the NL5 by Hayes in Amsterdam when I was at Posy. I used to buy it from the greenhouse, and it's interesting. The way we used to grow it was with 0 days pre-grow. It would get about 30 inches tall. We would average 14 to 16 grams a plant. Neville was the one that basically told us to grow it with 0 days pre-grow, and it worked out really well. It had a rather large bud for a haze, but it still smelled spicy and had a very energetic, uplifting high. And we weren't doing chemical tests back then on cannabinoids, so I can't tell you how high the THC was. I mean, Sam was doing it with Skunk One, but it's not like we were testing stuff at Posy and Greenhouse and stuff like we are at BPG and other places today.
Yeah.
Fantastic variety, though. Cali Mist is very similar, but Simon went after it using a female haze that took 16 weeks to finish flowering and would mix it with a shorter 8-week, 9-week male, and he'd come out with the Cali Mist, which was a lot like the female, smoked like her, smelled like her, you know, gave you the energetic high, but was 6 weeks quicker. Cali Mist and NL5 haze were easily 2 of my favorite varieties back in 1996 when I lived there.
They're definitely great to smell in the air.
I remember scoring those at Katsu and even the hash, and was just blown away. Katsu is a small little shop which Todd actually turned me on to, where the locals went to, and he liked it because that's where he got the hazes. And
yeah, they specialized in hazes. They still do.
Yeah, they were great. One of my favorites. And I think we'll see that more now as, you know, more connoisseurs start smoking the stuff that takes longer and yields less, but has more of a, for me, it was the outright feeling of it. I had smoked, you know, no disrespect, Sam, but smoked a lot of skunks that really sapped my energy, you know, got me really high, you know, made me hungry. But when I started smoking haze, wow, you know, it was like morning coffee. Wake me up, give me pep, focus me.
You don't need to convince me. You got to remember, I'm the one who brought the haze. So.
And I forever thank you.
And I absolutely agree with you. When I had my great haze, I wouldn't smoke my great skunk. Even at the Skunk One, the Harvest Festival, I didn't give a flying shit. I smoked what I liked, which in general, I like more like haze type, you know, cannabis. That's really the kind of highs I like.
We all have that in common in here, because I've said it before, you know, my son's middle name is Hayes. It's by far my favorite cultivar, terpene profile, whatever you want to call it. That smell, that terpenoline and those other flavors in there. And of course the headspace. And I'm certain that it has a lot to do with those terpene profiles, and how unique they are, and why we feel.
You could smell a joint in the PAX party house, whether it was Super Silver Haze or Neville's Haze or Haze Skunk or NL5 Haze. They had this certain, smell, and you could just instantly know that's got haze blood in it.
Right. Yeah, and they're everywhere. They're talking about the Gainesville. They're talking about the Piff, the New York City haze. We had one in Manitoba just called the Pure Haze. It was a 17.5-week flowering variety that was just, just haze. It was just rank. Loved it.
Yeah, well, now we're moving back into greenhouses, and with these huge productions, you need to stagger your harvests. You can't take it all down at halfway through September. You got to have different plants that come in at different times, so people can start growing these hazes and just harvest them at the end of the season. I think we'll start seeing a lot.
Or use darkening systems, and then you can time it to the way that's convenient for you.
Yeah.
Well, or put it straight into flower as well.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, because at Positronics, we taught people how to grow. And, this is more for the people listening. But most of the Afghan varieties, skunk type varieties we sold required 2 to 4 weeks of pre-grow, because once you started the 12-12 cycle, she would stop growing. But the hazes, you could pop them right in, and 10 weeks later, pull them out finished. And you were technically ahead of a plant that needed 4 weeks of pre-grow and 8 weeks of flower by 2 weeks. A lot of people weren't looking at it so matter of fact like that. And I watched my friend pull over 3 pounds of NL5 by Haze out from 88 plants. He averaged 16 grams a plant with 0 days pre-grow. And it won the 1996 Cannabis Cup in the hydroponic division. And it was grown in soil. It was that good.
Huh.
Yeah. I was standing next to him when they gave the award to somebody else. But that's how it went back then. Whoever bought the weed and entered it was the person who got the Cannabis Cup.
Right. Who was that went and took that award?
Arian won, and he called it NL5 Haze by Mist, but it was really just NL5 Haze by that he always sold. And it was grown by a guy named Tom. To keep it real, he's a super cool guy. Ran one of the simplest little grows I've ever seen. Had 4 lights, 88 plants on each side. He rocked them. He would cut clones on the 15th, pop them in on the 1st, and do it for each room. He was like on a schedule. It was great. I've never seen anyone be as productive, as simply as him. Yep.
Nice. Efficiency with 4 lights.
A kilo a month with 4 lights. Easy. And he would keep what was over. Really simple situation. I hadn't seen people growing with 0 days pre-grow prior to him doing it. And it was a tip he got from Neville. And once I tried it, I was like, oh, I'm hooked.
Interesting. Oh my goodness, I think it's time for another bong rip here on Hash Church episode 113. 113 Sundays in a row we've gathered and chatted about all things cannabis. And some things beaver, and some things political, and lots of good conversations have occurred, that is for sure.
I like what I learn on here. I may ruffle your feathers there, Ryan, but I love listening to all of this. I mean, I always kind of take a devil's advocate approach to it, because I feel like the devil is in the details, and we do have to think about it. But I think it's really cool that we have such invigorating conversation about cannabis. I enjoy it. I'm glad you guys all come out.
Yeah, we're right on the cusp of things really changing and this whole thing blowing up even bigger than it has. Any news on your
the future is about to make it so that you can get fresh cannabis from Colombia, from Kenya, from Panama, from any other country that produces cut flowers organically, delivered to your door for the same price as flowers.
Hey, can we get Swaziland on that quickly? We need Swazi on that stat.
Why do you want Swazi? Is it the terpenes or what?
I just always loved the high, and I would love to actually. It came through so rarely, but it was one of those that were so distinct. I would buy myself if a quarter pound comes. I would buy an ounce myself just for my own head stash. So I would like to test it because I was always told it had THCV in it. I've heard other rumors, but I would like to actually test it. And
well, I tested Swazi. I don't remember THCV, but it could have been there. Where I do remember it was in South Africa. Also in Thai, in Afghani, it had small amounts. So, yeah.
Yeah, even Calliope had some, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. California Orange had small amounts of THCV. We used it for the breeding program to develop pure THCV varieties, and we're quite successful.
You know, it would be really cool if we could identify more modern varieties that don't have it, because THCV was the test that Muhammad Asoli used against me to prove that I was, or to try to prove that I was using something organic and not just Marinol, because the THCV was in the system.
I actually put the THCV in all the cannabis, Todd, knowing we were going to be able to trap you like that.
They must have been using.
I love you for it. But you know, John Morgan brought a list from Carlton Turner's days that showed all the varieties that did not have THCV, but they were more ancient varieties.
Yeah, they're more ganja type varieties, but yeah, but if you look, you can absolutely find it. So
would you say more of the equatorial varieties?
I don't have THCV. THCV seemed to be centered in Thailand. I don't know where it came from. Maybe it was from China. I really don't know. Also in South Africa it makes sense because all of the ships came around the tip of South Africa there, and I'm sure sailors had cannabis seeds for hundreds of years, and it's not surprising THCV would show up there from Asian sources like Thailand or maybe not Afghanistan, but yeah. But it's found in Afghanistan because the producers there do not smoke individual plants. They pick plants with the most resin, and that resin can be THC or it could be CBD or one of the propyl homologs like THCV or CBDV, and they wouldn't even know because they don't smoke individual plants. They only smoke, they keep the seeds of the plants with the most resin. They don't know what that resin is because they smoke fields full of resin at a time.
I think they would, if you were smoking populations, you'd actually be able to purge THCV pretty quickly, because it is, you know, it's a cannabinoid, it's a CB1 antagonist, right?
All I know is I found it in Thai populations, Afghani populations, South African populations. But yeah, I didn't look at everything, and I don't know where else it was also found.
Yeah, but being a CB1 antagonist, it would essentially bring down your high, right? If you were.
Yeah, but you got to remember that some people, maybe that's what they want. For example, in Afghanistan and in most of the big hash producing countries, they dry the plants on the roofs in the sun.
Yeah.
Now, that isn't friendly for terpenes, but
they also mix it up with tobacco and then chuff it up in a big old bowl.
Well, some of them certainly do that. But,
yeah.
All I'm saying is, yeah, I mean, either from ignorance or maybe they know what they're doing, because when they try to press large volumes of sifted hashish that's too terpene rich, it has storage or transportation problems.
Yeah, I bet that's not even the case. But I think that's probably an artifact of modern varieties, right? I bet you wouldn't see that with the old school varieties.
That would be a great question. If you dried them in the shade and did the whole thing, and then tried to see if it had problems. Yeah.
Do you remember when Eagle Bill was selling his gold weed around Amsterdam? He was trying it in the light.
I remember.
I love Eagle Bill. Ain't no dissing him.
Trying it on his balcony.
Yes, trying it on his balcony, turning it gold. Yeah, he needed a market niche, so that's what he did.
He had gold weed.
He had gold weed. That's right.
Gold.
Yeah.
I think it all speaks to the longevity and toughness of the terpenes that they still hang on in some crazy ass situations. I know in Morocco, way back when, they used kerosene and other nonsense like that to conglomerate the hash, and still, you know.
I never saw him use kerosene, but I saw him use petroleum wax. In other words, like candle wax. They would throw in per kilo, 10 grams or whatever. And what it did was it made it so that when the hash was pressed and you clicked it with your finger, it had this really great clicky noise, the way good pressed resin does. And it also keeps a flame.
Yeah, right. Whether you smoke it or just leave it on the dresser, right? Either a lamp, a room deodorizer, or get high.
Well, if you have really great hash and you twist it into a snake and you light it, it will keep a flame easily. In fact, the problem is if the hash is too good, it wants to drip all down the snake, and so it wants to put itself out. It's so good. But yeah, this candle wax Moroccan resin was, it looked the same, but it wasn't.
Harsh.
To say the least, I think it was poisonous.
Yeah. I never smoked enough of it to find that out. I mean, a few puffs to me said, "What is this shit?" and put it aside and got something else.
Well, that soap bar that they were making and sending to the UK and such, that shit for sure was poison.
Oh, yeah, that was petroleum wax. When me and Rob were there, they showed us. They were really proud that they could do this.
Look, it melts.
And it keeps a flame, and it clicks. It clicks.
Oh, my gosh.
And
we used to call it...
But it was it was shit.
We used to call, on Dead Tour in the 80s, we used to call it soapium.
Soapium, right.
That's what it smells like.
Horrible. Yeah, I remember it being offered to me. Now that you say it, brings back memories.
It's horrible, right?
No, my problem is not smoking it because I've never smoked it. Well, I put a flame to it and checked it out and had people explain what it is to me.
Well, you'd always get like some idiot trying to like put like a little bit on top of your bowl. And once you got that flavor into your bowl, especially a non-glass bowl, oh, good luck getting it out.
I would love to have seen someone back in those days try to put something in Sam's bowl.
Well, the funny thing is, I mean, think about it. When people are smoking really, really good, expensive, fine cigars, they won't light it with a candle.
No.
And there's a reason.
Can I just stop for a second, Mark? Remember we were at the milk bag and you were Sam had put BHO into your rig, and the world didn't come to an end, and it was my turn to do a dab, and you were like, "It's okay."
Hey, sometimes you gotta let your friends smoke BHO through your rigs.
You were so cool about it, though. You went from militant to totally like, "No, it's gonna be okay. Nothing bad's happening." It was great.
And then I smoked a kilo of BHO through. No.
Hey, so speaking of contaminated soap and all that kind of stuff, did you guys catch the news out of Vancouver this week about the contaminated marijuana?
Well, about Christy Clark trying to spread disinformation, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I couldn't believe that shit, especially because, in my opinion, that fentanyl shit is no fucking joke. And we shouldn't be spreading anything that's disinformation in regards to it, because there's valid information that needs to be spread. Even the Vancouver PD came out and said that she was totally wrong. Which,
yeah. It's crazy. That whole thing is crazy. She's essentially what's the equivalent of the governor of our province in Canada. So that's like a big deal for her to come out and be spreading that kind of misinformation.
Yeah, saying that people were selling fentanyl-laced cannabis. And so one of the first statements I saw is from the VPD.
Yeah.
And it was basically their statement on Christy Clark's statement, and they were like, no.
What does that fentanyl stuff cost per gram?
Definitely more than it is to grow cannabis.
That's what I'm wondering, number one. And number two is, what would be the purpose to get your marijuana customers hooked so they'll have to come back and get more from you?
That doesn't make sense, because one wrong fentanyl joint and you're not going to be a returning customer. You're going to be, a customer of Digger D. Odell, Friendly Undertaker, and Last Man to Let You Down.
Yeah, well, it depends how much you take. But I mean,
maybe they bought shares of Narcan, the anti-heroin drug that you can take and it'll straighten you out instantly.
This is what she actually said. She said Vancouver police did a major seizure and they found cocaine with fentanyl, heroin with fentanyl, methamphetamine with fentanyl, and marijuana with fentanyl.
And it's my understanding that they actually have found all the other ones with fentanyl in the mixture. So
sure, they're pills, they're powders. You can do that.
Well, I can see her just adding marijuana to the sentence. Do you remember when they did the scare in Colorado about THC in the water system? Yeah. And then they got slammed because it was so stupid. It kind of sounds like the same similar thing happening north of the border. And, it's funny because people have expressed on Hash Church in the comments that we talk about politics too much, but that has been the boot that has oppressed us.
Yeah.
For decades, and it still does. Looking at this politician slinging mud at us, how can we not try to defend ourselves?
It's an old story, It's a very old story. It goes back to paraquat and Mexican weed, and even before that.
When they announced that THC in the water in Colorado, I bought nearly 2,000 acres of land that had lots of water on it, and I'm bummed, man, when they found out that there was no THC.
You distill it out or something?
It was there, but somebody chopped it all down.
Hey, welcome back, Tony. In your car, on mute.
With terps on his fingers, making an old man smell his fingers.
He's probably smelling his own fingers right now as he drives. Chimera just smelled his just when I said that. I saw him.
Flower.
Oh, no.
Are you talking about me?
Oh, yes, steak finger.
Brother.
Well, I got so bombed from that Terpene ball dab hit and a terp rosin hit, I forgot my ID and my health cards.
Oh.
Yeah, I can't turn around now. You're going to have to mail them to me, John.
Yeah, well, Johnny and Benny will be back here on Tuesday. Then they'll be back down there on Wednesday.
I was kind of hoping, maybe you could mail them to where I'm going to go for Thanksgiving.
Okay, well, email me the address.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have no idea how to get back to you, and I had no signal until now, so I was like, I'm not going to turn around to go back another hour. But I don't have my driver's license, so it makes it interesting.
Drive carefully.
One of the things I do, and it's just with having a cell phone, I always and when I travel especially, out of country and such, I always photograph my ID. I always just have a little picture of my license or my passport or whatever. And it's only come up one time, but it's been it's kind of like having your ID, if there's...
Oh, no, definitely do that. That is a great thing. I was just in a situation with someone in a weird country, and yeah, they had their ID and I didn't have mine, and it was a big pain in the ass.
Hey, Tony, you want me to take a picture of your driver's license and send it to you on text?
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's a good call, because that's a lot better than not having your license. At least at that point, it's got your picture and all your data, and it bleeds back to you when they check.
Yeah.
And he left it.
Yeah, when they go license, registration, and insurance, you go, well, about that.
That's not too bad, Tony. About 10 years ago, me and Rob were flying up to St. Petersburg, Russia, and I get at the airport and I pull out my passport, and it's not my passport, it's my wife's passport. So I'm lucky that I live so close to the freaking airport. I jumped in a cab, I raced back here, raced back to the airport, and made it as they were just about to close the doors of the jet.
I'm glad you said that as opposed to saying you look exactly like your wife, so you were able to use her ID and get through.
I was waiting for it, Etienne.
If that was true, I probably would not have married her.
Wow. You know, I think it was a travel tip back when I first went to Amsterdam saying to make a photocopy of your passport and leave your passport at the hotel. And that's what got me started with it.
Yeah, I do it all now. I'll photograph my license, my birth certificate, my passport, and just it's nice to have those things even digitized. I know in a world of people hacking and whatnot, it's scary, but it makes me feel more comfortable knowing that, you know, even for my license, I have a federal license to possess and grow and process here in Canada. And, you know, one of the important things is having it on you. They want you to have that on you. And so
is that soft paper or a hard plastic card?
It's like, it looks kind of like this. This is my one for my grow, just on my wall here. Just type my license, my address, but that's basically it right there. This little guy.
It's paper.
Yeah, big, giant piece of paper, like a ridiculous big piece of paper that they want you to carry around with you. So.
Yours is in really good condition.
Well, it's been on the wall and never been taken off, actually. It is in quite good condition.
Yeah, you see a lot of people pulling those things out, and they look like linen. They've been folded so many times.
No shit. Yeah, mine doesn't get folded. I came folded, and I unfolded it, put it on the wall, and it's been there ever since.
Well, they're legal documents, too, so you can't laminate them or anything like that, right?
Exactly. Which sucks.
Yeah.
And what happens when the date is expired? Do you have to return it? Does it have to be destroyed? Or
interesting that you would ask.
Make them as collector items.
Well, this one is already expired, but here in Canada, we fought the government, and well, in this particular case, the law did not win. We fought the law, and we won. So we won the right to have our our MMAR licenses, which of course are no longer kind of MMAR licenses. But from what I understand from both John Conroy and Kirk Tusaw, they've sort of said, you know, you can go and apply for the ACMPR, but until they deal with all of it that Phelan put in the final judgment, all of these Health Canada, there's a certain timeline you have to fit into, but I do fit into it. And these things that are expired are basically not expired. It's what a lot of people have been growing under for the last, I'd say, close to 2 years.
Okay, and before that, how long were they good for? A year, 2 years, 3 years?
1 year.
So that means there must be a bunch of old copies that did run out before the extensions now.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened to those? Were they destroyed? Were they taken back? Did you have to turn it in to get a new one?
No, I think that you just throw the document away. They don't require the documents be given back.
Okay, so yeah, but no, you know me, I collect this kind of cannabis paraphernalia, and I think licenses would be cool.
Oh, I'm sure we could find you some.
Yeah, and I know someone that would happily give you a license.
Why don't you just come to Canada and get your own, dude, in your own name? We'll get you a license, man. We'll get you.
I'll do that, but I need to arrange to have a shovel.
Listen,
on the American side.
I'm going to put you in a 200 light show, Sam. We're going to split that shit right down the middle.
So
you know, I need the shovel so that I can dig a hole underneath the border.
Right. No, we've got all that sorted out, man. Don't worry about that.
Hey, when you're going south to north, that is the tradition.
Yes.
So Sam, do you want I have one of the very first Colorado medical marijuana patient licenses issued, and it looks like a title for a car. It's totally made to look like a Colorado state title.
No, that sounds really cool. Yeah, I've got one of the, I think it was 20 or 30 or maybe 40 at the most, Colorado state marijuana tax stamps.
Yeah, actually, I think these very first licenses that I got had a embossed tax stamp on it of some sort. I remember when we first got it in the mail, and I thought this is going to be a collector's item someday because it was so fancy.
Mine is a 1/4 ounce and was $25.
Mine was unlimited or as needed, and that's because I had a good doctor, and he wrote me a thing saying as needed. Explained to him that I was juicing marijuana every day and I needed to juice a couple of kilos a day. So he just wrote on the license as needed.
I bought mine from the Colorado State Revenue Tax Department. I have them from maybe, I think, 26 states in California, in America, that issued marijuana tax stamps. In the last 20, maybe 30 years.
Well, I'll be glad to turn you on to my old Colorado license. It was only a year; it expired, and if you enjoy collecting those kinds of things, it's all yours.
Absolutely, sounds really nice.
Into the museum it goes.
Yeah, quite a museum it is.
Unbelievable.
I think you should start a Hash Church museum. I mean, no question.
You maybe heard of the Hash Museum in Amsterdam?
Oh, I've been to it.
Okay, well, I started it.
Oh, yeah? I didn't know.
It was started by me and a friend. It was actually owned at that time by the owners of the coffee shop Ecstasy that was just around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
And then Ben bought the property and bought the museum and put a lot of money, time, and energy into it. And created it what it is not only in Amsterdam, but the really jewel of the museums is the one in Barcelona. It's just freaking amazing.
And I have to try to go there before I sign up.
And I tell you this as a cannabis collector because I've been collecting longer than Ben, but he had more financial resources than me, especially the last decade.
The Barcelona Museum is absolutely off the hook. I suggest that anybody that hasn't been definitely go. It's incredible.
You got to do Hash Church there. How cool was that?
No, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was surreal.
If only we had faster Wi-Fi that day.
Oh, I know. That was a little bit of a, but nonetheless.
It was fun being part of the exhibit and people coming by and looking at us getting high and like, can we get high too? No, we're just doing this thing over here.
Right?
That's right. We were smoking too. That's right.
I hope that neighborhood gets even more gentrified and it becomes a major attraction because, believe it or not, the museum in Amsterdam gets more traffic flow than the one in Barcelona.
By far. But it's in the middle of Centrum. It's a little different, and it's established as a tourist point.
Is a gem, and I mean the one in Amsterdam is cool, but the one in Barcelona is beyond cool. It's fucking amazing.
It's priceless. Both of them are priceless, honestly. I mean, just in the history that they have.
I'll put a link up to over 1,000 photos of the museum I took. I was there when Ben opened it, the day he opened it.
Originally, when the Hash Museum opened, it was me and a guy named Bob Weir. No, Bob, I can't remember his last name. He was a Welsh guy. And he printed marijuana stickers for the coffee shops. And then the government here made it illegal to advertise with stickers in the coffee shops. So then he opened up this little museum, and they charged a little, and almost 75% of what was in it was from my personal collection. And then a year or so later, Ben bought it, and yeah, everything else is history. I mean,
yeah, but you also have your own collection, which you've amassed. That is its own museum in its own right.
Yeah, I do have my own collection. It's way more than can fit in my home, so most of it's boxed up. But yes, my original idea was to become a cannabis multi-billionaire, and then as the multi-billionaire of cannabis, I would open up museums in every country. But I never quite made it that far. I didn't get the billions was the problem.
I just posted a link in the Hash Church group of my photos, 700 plus photos of his amazing museum.
And I don't know if you guys can see this, but I've been playing the museum video since you guys have been talking about it.
Yeah, that's bringing back memories, bro. That was a great day.
Absolutely.
Love you, man. That was fun.
Well, the history that he has contained there of the pipes itself is staggering. Just, and then some of the art on the wall, then the looms that he has for actual the hemp making, from the old combs to the, you know, spindles. I mean, it's just, it's first class. I've never seen any. I've seen drawings of these things in books, but to actually see them physically all in one space is pretty awe-inspiring. Cannabis related wise, I geeked out every turn I went.
I used to have a much better collection than Ben, but I'm afraid mine is definitely not as good as Ben's. Ben's is fucking amazing, and he spent a lot of money on hemp too. I mean, I have a huge hemp collection. I have hemp breaking tools, and I've got a lot of the hemp processing equipment. But yeah, what can I say? I mean, I love his place in Barcelona, and I think the one here's when people have come to visit me, you know, a famous scientist or whoever from Raphael Mechoulam, etc. I often ask them, "Would you like to go see the museum?" And almost always they say, "Oh yeah."
Very cool. Well, that video is up there for anyone that wants to check it out, and Todd's got his photos up as well.
Can I show some of the pictures I took of Sam's label collection? And Sam could talk about them a little bit. They are amazing.
I saw this collection and was wowed. I mean, how did you access these for one? Because for one, patches, some of these things are just rare.
Remember that I was the first person in the world that had a marijuana seed company. So I kind of knew a lot of California growers. And where I met really a lot of people was at the Santa Rosa Harvest Festival, which let me think. I know it went on for 24 years, and when I was there was like maybe 1980 or something around then, and all the growers would be entering their cannabis to this event. This was strictly underground. You had to know somebody to get into it. They put you all inside of a sealed van and drove you to a secluded property with a really big giant house or something, and a beautiful events, really, really tasteful, super, super high class. And they would, to be honest, in my book, the cannabis wasn't what I would consider the best, because what was really important to them was photographic beauty and bag quality, whereas, you know, to me that's not so important. But I understand they're in the commercial trade, so you know, I'm just an Epicurean snob.
You know, can you see my screen, Sam?
Yes.
So could you talk a little about these? You know, the day I was with Sam, you let me take photos.
Somebody sent me this one from Hawaii.
Well, the interesting thing about that plant at the center is a plant that, to my knowledge, only grows there and above 10,000 feet there at the top of Haleakala. So it's nice that it's actually foreshadowed by probably some Maui back in the day.
Well, there's quite a few of them.
There's like books and books of them.
Okay.
These are.
Yeah, put that one up there. Now, I love this one.
What year is it from?
Shit. Let me think. I would say the mid 70s to early 80s. I can't remember the exact date I got it from. But,
Were they harder to find blank like this as opposed to with things written in the net weight, etc.?
Yes, because I wanted a virgin one. Some people collected ones that were, a lot of them were self-adhesive stickers. And but mostly what they did was they stuck one of these in a Ziploc with your ounce of weed or your pound of weed, whatever it is that you were doing. They had different size ones, small ones for ounces and bigger ones for pounds. And
these were just labels. These aren't stickers, or were they stickers as well?
They were both. They were both stickers and labels.
It depends. It depends on the one. So is this one and the Chili
That's
Express?
imported.
Are they mocking the smuggling?
No, this is imported from Mexico.
Was it? Were they smuggling it with chilies?
No, it was just Chili Express.
The original haze.
Yes, this is the original haze.
Sorry, hold on. I'm realizing that my life is not just your label suddenly. Wow.
That one was put out by a peace and ecology activist group, and yeah.
It was amazing how many of them there were. The original Sensi logo.
Yeah, I think I've got maybe 400.
Just amazing. It would be nice to see your collection on display somewhere.
Yeah, those should be mounted so that they could be easily shown.
It looks like they were making them all over the place too, not just Santa Cruz and such, but like Mexico and Colombia and other places.
That one's from Northern California.
Well, just the underground art itself. I mean, these artists don't even put their names on these things. So a lot of these things are anonymous
There's
art.
one or two with an artist name.
Dude, Dancing Seeds playing jazz is a first for me, for sure.
Hey, do you have the Beaverland Dam ones, Todd?
Yes.
Absolutely. I thought you were asking me. Excuse me.
Those are kind of like my favorite ones, I think. They kind of seem to have each year like
damn good, damn fine,
damn
near invisible,
damn close, damn near invisible.
So right on, we brought the beavers back to Hash Church. I knew we could do it, guys.
But these have already had their glands removed.
All beavers, no anus.
Hey, and what is this one? What is this one?
I don't know. It must be some hippie dog selling seeds. What's funny is, look at the picture again. It's talking about what everybody thinks of as cannabis sativa. In other words, narrow leaf drug varieties. But if you look at it, it says cannabis indica. I was ahead of my time by generations.
And look where the star is. The star is down by Goa.
No, it's actually it's in a city called Munnar. It's in Kerala, in the mountains where they grow tea.
Yeah, Goa's on the southern tip.
Right. See, the star is quite close to the southern tip. It's why.
Goa's north of Kerala.
Like how many hours?
It depends. By boat, by airplane, by ship, by
just
train.
by like walking.
Walking? I don't know. I've never walked it, but it could easily be a few hundred miles.
Triple J Ranch. Was this California, Santa Cruz?
No, that's not Santa Cruz. That's a Bay Area. Look at the picture in the background.
Oh, the bridge, yeah.
Oh, I see the bridge. Oh, I see this. Oh, I have this view. Oh, that's funny.
Right below her hand.
Not that far. It's a little bit north of you, but on the ridge there.
Yep. Wow. Let me see. We got more. We got more. Rocky Raccoon.
Oh yeah. Con muchos compadres.
Very good. Very good. Yeah.
I hope the weed was better than that art.
I thought I had more of the beaver ones, to be honest. Grower's Choice. These must have been really 79.
Copyrighted. We owe 'em money.
Yeah, that must have been stickers.
Ooh, I thought that said Terps. It says Tops. They would have been ahead of their
I'll
time.
go back to where do you see it? Oh, Tops.
Terps.
Oh, look at the Eden Hashish Center one.
Okay. Hold on. Is it in front of me? Oh, yes, it is. Oh, there's two of them. This is the card.
Manshapur.
And this was the party Sam said he was at. Go ahead, Sam.
Yep. Also, I thought there was the back of the card that tells what it is. But yeah, I was at that party. I think it was in late 71. Or was it
December 25th, 72, it says.
72.
Okay, 72. There we go. Yep.
Free Cosmic Hashish Party. There's nothing bad about that.
Hashish was still legal in Nepal at that time.
This is the back of the card that you just mentioned.
Oh, yeah, there we go. This was what was available. See, I was staying at the in Eden Hashish Center, so all I had to do was pound on the floor with my foot, and they'd send up somebody, and I could order any of those things that are on that menu by the. I mean, it costs nothing.
Tiger tail must have been interesting.
Well, yeah, I never imagined it was going to disappear as fast as it did. I mean, you could still get stuff there, but I mean, this was out in the open with all the different varieties from all the different areas of Nepal that produce quality. So it was kind of amazing.
Totally amazing.
Yeah, I was pretty blown away to go through your collection. I was kind of shocked by it, really. I didn't realize how much branding had been happening before the Reagan-era drug war.
Yeah,
when those
things
tax stamps on the right there, Sam?
Yeah, but they're not real. That's just, I mean, it's a real underground label, but it's not a real tax stamp.
Wow, that's incredible.
The haze used to be sold in redwood boxes with a blue sticker on the sides.
So
can I ask you, what is this National Institute of Mental Health label?
Oh, it's from a bottle of THC. So it's for their lab work, for their experiments, for calibrating their machines, for proving that marijuana is bad.
That's old. A lot coming out of Hawaii.
It's interesting that they would make fake stamps to go with the fake label.
Yeah, those were actually in a can. So it was like a peanut can or.
So it was a circular can that fit in.
Exactly.
So that was at the bottom of the can or on the inside of the lid?
It was on the on top of the lid, and the long strip one was around the can.
This is pretty incredible. Harvest Moonball.
Yep, I think that's the one where I won first place with skunk #1.
As opposed to the other one that you won first place with skunk #1?
Well, they were both the Harvest Ball, different years. And then they asked me, please don't enter anymore.
What year was that, may I ask? Here's another one.
Look back on it. It'll say right on
Oh,
it.
this one's 1984.
Yep.
And this other one says
83 or 85?
Yeah, second annual.
It was 83.
Really incredible history. NorCal, that's really cool too.
By American Herbsman.
American Herbsman indeed, huh? A perfect smoke.
Sophisticated lady.
Santa Cruz.
Hey, expertly nurtured and cured.
So I saw that Panama. So is Panama red completely gone as a genetic, or is there predominant genetics that have?
Well, the real question is, how much time was Panama a major producer, and how much time was it major transporter, transshipper? I mean, nobody's really clarified that, but it would be polluted. There's not going to be a pure Panama variety anymore. I mean, there's not even pure Mexican varieties or pure Jamaican varieties or pure Moroccan varieties.
Well, maybe not in the wild, but I'm sure there are some in collections.
Well,
Yeah.
here's
Yeah,
my
that's what I meant in wild.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let me say this about that. When you want to make a red variety of hash, you take the trichromes out in the sun and you let them get oxidized till they turn red. And and then you proceed with red hash oil and mix them together, and you got Panama red. You got all the different kinds of red hash you can think of are made that way with oxidized trichromes.
Well, for me, it's not the color; it's the terpene content. And
this
I'm just talking about the way everybody else.
Put that other one back up. That's imported from Thailand.
This is Thailand.
Yes.
So Thailand was making labels, and this one over here I wanted to question.
This was Westerners working in Thailand.
Yeah, yeah.
What was this one?
Oh, that was on hashish coming from the Mujahideen when they were fighting the Russians.
So that's Afghani.
It's NSA church now.
I'm sorry.
Oh, there's a beaver. There's the damn close one. That's got the helicopter above it.
Hold on, I'll go to it, bro. I'll go to it. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, damn close. 100% organic.
Huh, what year was
Cannabis plant is a scarecrow?
One doesn't have any year, but I think these are all 80. Like, I think he's got from like 80 to
You can't see the plants because he's camouflaged them.
Yep.
I'd love to know who has those original paintings.
I don't know the artist. I knew the grower.
Can you tell us a little about this one?
Yep. It's again, Cannabis indica, correct? Or wide leaf variety, correct? And it's hashish type seeds, wide leaf, heavy narcotic, and yeah, some people like it. It's not my favorite, but when it was new, people flipped over it.
I like that you just got this picture of a bud and you're like, you know what? Let's just make a huge logo that covers the bud almost completely.
The original for that art was more than 3 feet tall.
Wow.
That's pretty leafy looking good.
Oh, man, it sucked. That's why I covered it, man. Let's be honest.
Well, it was hashish seeds, right? They weren't marijuana seeds.
I like the little skunk on the hookah, though. That's really cute.
Yeah, that was good.
So what year was this sacred seeds there, Sam?
1975, but really started boogieing in 76.
I like that logo.
Yeah, I do too. That's cool.
Classic.
Yeah. Whoever picked that had some good taste.
Well, didn't Mrs. Skunkman draw that?
Some of the art, yes, she drew, and she did the original brochures, but the seed catalog.
Iron rodent.
Yeah, look at this is when growers supported legalization.
Damn fine.
Oh, the kid with the boombox.
Are those beavers?
Yeah, those are beavers, man. This is beaver brand.
Damn fine beavers at that.
Damn.
He's got like the Michael J. Fox.
Got a bunch of them here. All the next 5 are all Beaverland dams. Beaver brand dams.
Yeah.
Visible.
Yeah, there's that one. Here's the sitting at home one.
So I take it this guy grew close to a dam, then.
Damn good, bro.
Most of these people started growing, and their lives changed from, $20,000 a year to, well, let's say 10 or 100 times that. And the California state government flipped out.
So was that damn good one? Was that an early one, and then they became more cartoonish as the beaver character later?
Yep. Also, too, there was one there for the One, which was
that was the oil, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of the very first hash oils produced in the world.
The One.
Is it here?
Yeah.
Which one is it?
The very first one. It's right in the right-hand lower corner with the
drop.
Yeah. And the first one was a product called Smash, made out of weed in Mexico. And then there was the One, which I'm not sure what it was made out of, but it was a much better product. And then they made Son of One, and that sort of sucked.
Wouldn't that be two?
Yeah, but they called it Son of One.
Oh.
Jet Li's.
But they gave you a little glass hash oil pipe. So, I mean, it was very sophisticated. It was almost as good as honey oil, but not quite as good as a few years later there was Afghan Brotherhood of Love honey oil. That was butt kicker.
Thanks for sharing those, Todd. Those are awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I thank you to Sam for letting me sit there on his couch and take pictures and smoke his hash.
Yeah, it's quite a collection.
Awesome.
Last time I was over there, we got into the Marinol bottles. Marinol bottles from like every different, iteration of the production.
When they were Schedule 1, when they were Schedule 2, I don't even know what schedule they are now, if they're Schedule 3 or whatever.
Yeah, let me see if I can find that. I'll put it up.
But yeah, and 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams. I forget what the strongest. 2.5 is. So 10 is the strongest one.
Sam, you need to mount that collection though. Seriously, I mean, I have an art background, art history, and stuff like that, and that has definitely all that art needs to be protected.
I've been collecting cannabis medicinal bottles since the late 70s.
But the art itself, though, I mean, you need to have that. It needs to be displayed. People don't have any idea that, even this stuff was even available or around. I had heard rumors of these things, and I had seen, because we used to sell the Rick Griffin shirts and things like that, which I saw some pictures of, like the Super Skunk and some others like that. But I had heard rumors of these things, and yours is the only collection I have seen that I've only seen people show like, oh, here's my one, or here's this, and you have an extensive collection that is historical in significance. I mean, seriously.
No, I understand this, and yeah.
It'll happen.
Hopefully, yes. I mean, I have an incredible collection of these. I stopped maybe 10, 20 years ago. And but the newer stuff's not so hard to get. It's the old stuff that is gone.
Yeah, the collection you have, I've never seen the majority of those pieces. I've only seen like 2.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. It really is. I like these ones, this little terry cloth towel that they had made for the doctors, that whoever was in marketing decided to get this tie-dye towel.
Oh my God, that is so awesome.
Yeah, I collected that about 10 years ago.
He's got a dronabinol one too. Covering all the bases. Well, you know what? We rocked a solid 3 hours. I really dug the early intensity part of the conversation. Sorry we got too intense for some of you, but hey, sometimes that's how it goes on Hash Church. And I definitely loved Todd sharing the labels, Skunkman Sam's label collection. Obviously appreciate all of you guys showing up for another episode of Hash Church. I think we rocked out a solid 3 hours plus. yeah, I guess just really thank everyone for coming and watching. We've got another great show next week with a bunch of new guests, a couple of different doctors that Dr. Natasha is bringing in. And I believe actually Rob is coming in next week to do a presentation on his Turkey project that he's been doing in Turkey. So he's going to come in early, 9 o'clock a.m. and get that started. So he will have the floor for an hour or two or whatever he requires. And we'll look forward to that. And otherwise, thanks for coming out, everybody.
Next week, too, I'll be sure to give everybody a free Marinol pill.
Oh, there you go. Man, you're top notch, dude. Tony, Todd, Mark, Indra, Junkman Sam, Etienne, Chimera, thank you guys. And for tomorrow, happy birthday, Johnny B. I hope it's a great day for you, brother. Peace out, everybody.